If you raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat, and once you're settled in, we'll have you tell us your full name and spell your last, please. If you want to give me that empty cup, or it may have water in it, but. Thank you.
My name is Scott Leroy. Leroy is Leroy.
Thank you. Mr. Blair?
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, how are you employed?
I am currently retired from the Michigan State Police and work two part-time jobs as a private fire investigator and as a medical examiner investigator.
And when you were employed with the Michigan State Police, what was your role there?
My last role was from 2001 to 2020. I was a fire investigator stationed here in Paw Paw.
And how long were you with the Michigan State Police for?
31 years.
When did you start there?
I started in 1989.
And as a role as, for instance, starting with Michigan State Police, did you just start out as a fire investigator?
No, my first 10 years, I was a road trooper at the Ithaca Post. In 2000, I got promoted to uniform sergeant, and I was a supervisory uniform sergeant at the Lakeview Post. Then I transferred down here to Paw Paw in 2001 in the role of a fire investigator.
Fair to say that as your time prior to becoming a fire investigator, you were trained in, basic investigative skills, evidence collection, that sort of thing?
Yes.
And then you indicated, what year did you become a fire investigator for the Michigan State Police?
2001.
And prior to becoming a fire investigator in 2001, was there a certain level of coursework that you had to attend or go through?
I had attended, before I got into the Michigan State Police, I attended Lake Superior State University, obtained a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and an associate's degree in fire science. While I was a trooper, I took some courses in the initial fire investigation course and a follow-up, more advanced fire investigation course.
And I assume that before the Michigan State Police allows you to go out and start investigating fires on your own, is there some parameters or qualifications that you have to meet?
At that time, no. I always just had to go through, apply, go through an interview process. Well, in that time, I'm sorry. At that, I was able to transfer in here on the transfer roster.
And as part of your fire investigation training for the Michigan State Police, what coursework did you have to go through? Can you restate that for me, please?
Well, I've gone through, since I've been with the State Police, I've gone through a lot of coursework. Started out with what's called Fire Investigation 1, then Fire Investigation 2. I have my CV here to review all the classes if I could, to refresh my memory, or no?
Well, let me ask it this way.
Okay.
Have you provided a copy of your curriculum vitae or CV to the prosecutor's office?
I have.
And I'm showing this to Marcus People's proposed exhibit 33. I'm going to ask if you recognize that, sir.
This is a copy of my curriculum vitae or CV.
And that's a fair and accurate representation of what you provided to the prosecutor's office as your curriculum vitae?
Yes.
Move for the admission of 33. All right, so let's, I guess, kind of go through. So basically, to become a fire investigator of the State Police, you go through, you said Fire 1 and Fire 2. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is there some on-the-job training you have to go through as well?
Eventually, yes.
What is that?
Once I became a fire investigator down here, I would go to scenes with a more senior fire investigator. I did that for about 1 or 2 months.
And then, is there continuing coursework you're required to do when you're at the Michigan State Police?
Not then. There is now.
And have you, even though may not require, did you go through additional coursework?
Yes.
What type of coursework did you do?
There was many different courseworks. I took a class in vehicle fire school, electric and gas appliance fire school, solid fuel burning, which is a fancy way to say fireplaces school, then post-blast school with ATF, taken fire pattern and recognition class, residential electricity for fire investigators. That was a class I took. what's called an ATF enclosure, which was another 2-week course at the ATF Fire Research Facility out in Maryland. Spent 2 weeks there. Class in ventilation and flow path and growth. Ventilation is the fire, the air affecting of the fire. And recently a fatal fire investigation class. All those official, I kind of skipped over some of the ones like hazardous materials and things like that.
And like what agencies offer these types of classes?
Different agencies, the Michigan State Police offered some of them, ATF offered some, the International Association of Arson Investigators, which goes by an acronym, IAAI.
And let's talk about IAAI. Do you have any specific certifications as a fire investigator?
I do.
And what are those and who are those through?
I hold 2 national certifications. The first one is a certified fire investigator through the International Association of Arson Investigators. I obtained that in 2006. I also am a member and obtained a certification called Certified Fire and Explosive Investigator. That's with the National Association of Fire Investigators. I obtained that certification in 2019.
Yeah, I just need to strike the last part. Respect to anything past 2007. This case is about his expertise level in 2007.
I would disagree. I think he's allowed to give his training experience today, and if that would affect or change his opinion, obviously, then Mr. Miller's free to ask him about that. But I think his experience today is just as relevant as it was in 2007.
I agree. I'll overrule the objection.
Now, with respect to, so it sounds to me like you've done a continuing level of coursework throughout your years as a fire investigator, fair?
Yes.
And have you been qualified as an expert in courts before?
Yes.
In what field?
In fire investigation, I've also been an expert in meth lab identification.
And as part of being a fire investigator, is that, we've heard maybe terms of called cause and origin. Is that something that you have opined about in courts before?
Yes.
And do you recall how many courts you've been qualified as an expert in?
I've been qualified 47 times in origin and cause investigation, including, I believe, 7 times in this court.
Your Honor, at this point in time, I'd move to admit Scott Leroy as an expert in fire investigation, cause and origin.
No objection, Your Honor.
We'll receive his testimony as an expert.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, I'd like to take you back to January 7th of 2007. Do you recall that date?
Yes,
And on that date, were you still working for the Michigan State Police?
I was.
And what role were you working in at that time?
I was a detective sergeant with the Michigan State Police Fire Investigation Unit out of 5th District Headquarters here in Paw Paw.
And we've heard terms thrown about the word fire marshal. Is that you?
That would be yes, that's me.
Okay, all right. Just so there's no confusion, when we hear the term fire marshal, are you commonly referred to as a fire marshal?
That's there's a small difference, but more people usually just interchangeably use those 2 phrases.
And on 1/7 of 2007, did you respond to a residence on County Road 215 in Lawrence Township?
Yes.
Do you know that to be the Stermer residence?
Yes.
And how was it you were dispatched on that date?
I was contacted by cell phone at home off duty at approximately 4:30 in the afternoon and informed of the fire.
And did you then respond?
I did.
Do you recall about what time you responded?
I arrived on scene approximately 6 p.m.
And upon arriving on scene, can you describe what you observed? I guess you rephrase that. Upon your initial arrival, what did you observe?
There was obviously a lot of activity going on. Fire department was there. Sheriff's Department vehicles were there. I approached there was a lot of commotion going on. It was rain/snow going on. I would have contacted whoever was in charge, either the fire chief or the lead law enforcement on scene.
And is this kind of just the process of you beginning your investigation into this fire?
Yes, I would do that just so they know I was there.
And What about the condition of the house at the time you arrived on scene? Can you describe that for the jury, please?
The house was still actively smoking. There were no flames to be seen, but there was a lot of smoke still coming out of the house. There was a fire apparatus parked right in front of the house. I believe it was a ladder truck with hoses still on the ground and active fire suppression going on.
Now, this might kind of go without saying, but I have to ask this anyway. Does the fact that the fire is still going on, does that prevent you from going in and conducting any investigation at this time?
Yes.
And at some point in time, did you have the opportunity to view the body of Todd Stermer?
I did.
How is it you were came to do that? Can you describe that for the jury, please?
One of the officers on scene directed me to where Todd Stermer was laying, and I went over there and I would document Todd Stermer's body, which is common practice for a fire investigator at a fatal fire scene.
How is it you document that?
I use photographs.
So the evening of the 7th, you took photographs?
Correct.
Do you recall exactly what you would have taken photographs of on the evening of the 7th?
On the evening of the 7th, I took photographs of Todd Stermer. I also took some initial photographs of the structure and some of the surroundings.
I was going to ask you. May I approach the workshop? Sir, I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 34-1 through 34-31. Ask if you take a look at those, please. Having looked at People's Proposed Exhibit 34, do you recognize those photographs?
Those are photographs that I took both the evening of the 7th and the next day on the 8th.
Those are fair and accurate representations of the observations you would have made then on the 7th and the 8th of January 2007?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point in time, I'd move for the admission of 34-1-3431. May I publish to the jury? Thank you. Sir, I'm going to show you, if we can, 34-1. What are we looking at here in this photograph?
This is the front or east side of the structure on the evening of the 7th. And you'll tell evening of the 7th is dark and snowy. The photographs of the 8th are during the daytime.
And do you recall about what time it was you were taking these photographs?
It would have been after I got on the scene after 6 p.m. I don't know exactly when.
And contained in this photograph, right here about center where I'm circling with the red blazer pointer, what are we observing there?
There's fire hoses coming from the fire engine, and there's also a red gasoline can.
And does that become relevant here a little later on in your testimony?
It will.
And looking at 34-2.
This is the rear or west side of the residence. And just to the very far left, you can see the front bumper of a van.
34-3.
That is the van from the previous photograph, or the bumper of the previous photograph.
Now, you're obviously on scene as a fire investigator, correct?
That's correct.
Can you explain why you're taking pictures of a van?
As I'm a fire investigator, but I'm also a detective with the Michigan State Police. So if I see something that may be evidence, I'm going to take note of it, especially in the evening when it's dark. I take a photograph of it because you never can take too many photographs of something. So I noticed this van behind, and I think the next picture will show what I noticed, so I took some pictures.
Now, I'm going to ask this if I can right now. You've been shown approximately 31 photographs here today, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that the full totality of all the photographs you took?
No.
How many photographs did you end up taking in this case?
It was over 100.
And looking at 34-4.
That is a close-up of the van bumper where I noticed what could be blood.
And 35-5.
35-5, that is going to be the north side of the house.
And looking at 34-6.
This is on the north side of the house. Also would appear to be blood on the ground. And then if you go back to 5, you can see with my photograph just to the lower right, you can see the 2 orange flags that are in the ground.
I'm circling again with the pointer.
Yes. And those are, and 6 is a close-up of those flags.
And Your Honor, I guess I'm going to kind of warn the court the next couple of pictures are going to be a little bit graphic of Mr. Stermer, so I don't know how the court wants to proceed with that or give the family an opportunity.
Copies I can look at.
Yes, Mr. Leroy has them right there.
Okay.
B7 and 8. I'm going to show you what's been marked as 34-7. What are we looking at here, sir?
That is a photograph of Todd Stermer as I was examining him.
And we're looking at, there are several items in this photograph. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
What are we looking at these items, if you're aware, here on the chest of Mr. Stermer?
Specifically the chest, well, I can see the 2 larger pads are AED pads, which are used by EMS. And I believe the smaller ones are heart sensors over on the chest and abdomen area.
And there are a multitude of what look like clothing items here. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And do you know how those got there?
Apparently bystander or EMS and Good Samaritans who arrived on scene first placed blankets and clothing over Mr. Stermer, and I would have removed some of them in order so I could photograph Mr. Stermer.
And looking at 34-8, what are we looking at here?
That is Mr. Stermer's feet, and around his feet are a pair of gray sweatpants and a pair of white socks on his feet.
And with respect to those sweatpants, was there anything peculiar about them that you noticed?
When I took other items, the blankets and other items off of Mr. Stermer to photograph them, there was a detectable odor of a liquid accelerant in the area from Mr. Stermer. And as I got closer, they seemed to be coming from the sweatpants.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked, if I may approach, Your Honor. People's Exhibit 17. See if you recognize those.
These are the sweatpants that are in a nylon bag with my initials on them.
Those are the ones you then removed from the body of Todd Stermer?
Yes.
And these are the same sweatpants you indicated smelled of a liquid accelerant, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that correct?
It's a clarifying question, Your Honor. Fair. Now, on the 7th of January 2007, did you collect any other evidence?
I did not.
Did you then return to the property?
I did.
On what date was that?
The next day on January 8th.
And on that date, what did you do?
On that date, it was concentration on starting my cause and origin investigation of the house.
And how is it you go about doing that, generally speaking?
In general terms, when you do cause and origin investigation, I'm going to examine the house, both exterior and interior, noting burning, things that aren't burned, things that are gone, that have burned up. It's a general examination. You typically do the entire, or you do the, if possible, the entire exterior, and if possible, the entire interior.
Now, when you returned on the 8th, was the scene still secured?
Yes.
How was it secured?
The sheriff's department had left a patrol car on the scene overnight.
Was there also like crime scene tape or anything like that you recall?
I don't recall if there's crime scene tape.
And was this in the daytime or nighttime hours that you did this? On the 8th?
It was the daytime.
Do you recall about what time?
It would have been, the exact time, no. I know it had been shortly after 9 a.m. because that's when I was notified of the search warrant.
And as part of your, I think you've talked about a walk around, do you take photographs?
Yes.
And did you do so in this case?
Yes.
And looking at the remaining photographs in People's Exhibit 34, do you recognize what those are depicting, just generally?
All these photos are 34, correct?
Yes, those are all
yes.
34, but I'm asking about the remaining.
Yes. Yes. Those are the next day on the 8th.
And what is the purpose in part of the purpose in taking these photographs?
To document the scene.
And in this case, just generally speaking, do you recall what you took photos of?
I took photos of the house, both exterior and interior.
Now, were you able to make a deep entrance into the interior of the house?
I was able to make entrance into the house on the west side. I tried to make entry into the east side, but that was limited due to the structural collapse that was on the east side of the structure.
Is part of your process also to collect physical evidence?
Yes.
And where do you collect that from, if you can kind of just generally detail that? For instance, inside the residence, outside the residence?
If I see something that is potential evidence, I'm going to collect it, inside or outside.
Have you heard the term excavation before?
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
In fire investigation community, excavation means removing fire debris from the scene in order to look for evidence or other patterns to help determine where and what could be responsible for the fire.
And did you conduct an excavation in this case?
I did.
And was that captured in your photographs?
Bits and pieces of it were captured. Unfortunately, the scene after I excavated it, I cannot find a photograph of it.
And also, as part of an investigation into a fire, do you collect samples?
I can.
And describe for the jury what those might entail, if you can, please. What the samples might be, like that you might look for or collect.
If I'm sampling items to look for ignitable liquids, I will typically look for the surface that is in the area of origin to see if there was ignitable liquid in the area of origin, which often includes carpeting, carpet pad, flooring, carpet tack strips, or other parts of a structure that remain behind in the area of origin that may hold traces of a flammable liquid.
All right. And so let's go ahead, if we can, and go back to your photographs. If I look at 34-9, what are we looking at here?
That is the front or east side of the structure.
And 34-10?
That is the south side of the structure.
Now, there is, for lack of better words, we'll call it a rectangle cut along the cement foundation here. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
That will be done during fire suppression. If you go back one, you can see the same thing happened on the east side. Below the windows, you can see there is holes cut in the wall. That is standard for a fire department to do that, especially if they can't make entry through normal access, the doorway, where in this case they couldn't because of the structural collapse.
What is their purpose in cutting those holes in the house?
To get access to the interior to put the fire out.
Spray it with water?
Yes.
And let's go to 34-11. What are you looking at here?
That is the north side of the house.
And there is a large green object depicted here in the photograph. What are we looking at there, if you have any knowledge of that?
That is a fuel oil tank that is filled to typically power a fuel oil furnace.
And 34-12.
This is the rear of the house, or the west side of the house, facing the back.
And 34-13.
This is an aerial photograph During the scene, I had a fire department aerial truck come to the scene so I could get above the house and take a photograph from the top down.
So we're kind of talking like a ladder truck type of thing?
Yes.
Okay. With the bucket on the end?
I don't think this one had a bucket, but it was a ladder truck.
Okay. But that allows you to get up high and look down in.
Correct. This is the day before drones.
And 34-14?
This is also from the aerial truck with a house and showing the more of the yard towards the north.
And there are some persons kind of standing here in the photograph. Any idea who those are?
I believe one is the deputy from Berrien County Sheriff's Department who was doing the measuring, and probably more law enforcement officers.
And there were photographs earlier taken of some flags that you saw. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Are those also depicted in this photograph?
Let me see if I can. I believe they're down there to the right. There's an orange dot. I don't think that orange dot is it, but the flags are right in that area.
And if you have knowledge, there are some tire tracks contained in this photograph. Is that fair?
Yes.
Do you know what those go to?
Those were to the wrecker that came and took the van the night before.
Looking at 15.
This is another photograph showing to the north.
And as you've previously testified, is that Mr. Deleuze from Berrien?
I believe so.
Okay.
I can't identify him from this photograph.
And 16.
With the ladder truck hasn't moved, so all I've done is turn 180 degrees. That's the shoulder of the firefighter who's behind me, making sure I don't fall, taking a picture back down the driveway back towards the road.
And 17.
17 is a close-up of the rear or west of the house, specifically focusing on the basement door and windows.
18.
This would have been from that basement door, standing right at the door, taking a picture straight in to the structure. So I'd be facing east, taking a picture of the debris in this area.
Now, without getting into too much detail, there are a few objects contained in this photograph other than debris.
It's all debris, but it's identifiable debris. How's that?
Fair. So, for instance, my laser pointer, I'm pointing at an object in this part of the photo. Do you recognize that?
Is that the fireplace from the upstairs fireplace?
Where my laser pointer is?
Yes, that's the upstairs fireplace.
Fair. And what do we have right here at the bottom?
That is a section of chimney pipe.
And looking at 19.
That is a close-up of the fireplace for the upstairs.
And moving on. Let's look at number 20.
That is a close-up of inside the upstairs fireplace.
And can you kind of explain to the jury why it was you would have taken the photograph up close and at this angle?
This is basically showing that it appears to be a fire in the fireplace, or there's remnants of a fire in a fireplace because of the burnt wood inside.
And looking at 21.
21 are the sections of chimney pipe that I removed from the inside of the residence during my excavation, and that's where I stacked them.
22.
So 22. This photo, I've now stepped into the basement area through the center door of the basement. I've now rotated to the right 90 degrees. So if you look to the very tight left side of the photograph, that's going to be where the fireplace is. So this view is looking directly south to where there were two bedrooms, a downstairs bedroom and an upstairs bedroom. The floor is burned away. The separating the first floor and the basement is burned away in this area. You can see there's a window up and down. there should be a floor there to separate the first floor and the basement level.
Looking at 23.
So 23 is, I've now turned 90 degrees back. So if I walked into the basement from the outside, I walked straight forward, and the solid charred wall on the left side, that is adjacent to the basement fireplace. I am documenting the location of the laundry room behind that wall. You can see 2x4 studs going up and down. There was a wall there. So just behind those studs, you can see just the outline of right there is the washer and dryer.
And we're looking at 24.
24 is I've made my way back there and documented the dryer.
And 25.
So I've stepped back in the middle of the downstairs basement, facing east, because you can see the fireplaces. But I'm focusing more to the north or left in the area where the fuel oil furnace is located. Before we go to the next photo, you can notice just above the basement fireplace is a large 2x12 piece of structure that is black charred. And I'll show you why that's important in a second, in the next photo.
What is this green that we can see here at the top of the photograph?
That is the roof. You're looking at the shingles from on top of the roof, specifically on the north side of the house. As it collapsed inward.
And in 26?
You can see the long charred board that I pointed out earlier that's above the basement fireplace. To the left of that is the remains of the furnace. The metal portion, that's the furnace.
And 27.
27 is a close-up of the furnace.
And 28.
28 is back outside in the front, documenting where the 1 gallon gasoline can is located.
And 29.
Is a close-up of the gasoline can that I eventually collected as evidence.
Just a moment, Your Honor, I'm sorry. I'm going to show you some marks already. It was People's Exhibit 18. Do you recognize that?
This is the gasoline can that I collected, and these are my initials on the tape seal.
Does it indicate what time was it collected?
It says I collected it at 1:40 p.m.
And that was on the 8th of January?
on the 8th.
Thank you. And just so everyone's clear, this is in a clear, crinkly kind of bag. Is that fair?
Yes, that bag is made out of nylon.
Is that important?
Yes.
Why is that?
You cannot put evidence that you're going to have the lab checked for presence of ignitable liquids in a plastic bag. It has to be in either a nylon bag or a metal paint can.
And can you explain why you can't use plastic bags or any other container?
One of the important reasons is when the lab tests these samples, they will put the sample bag and all into an oven to try to heat it up. If you did that with a plastic bag, the plastic bag would melt. And if the plastic bag melts, it can give off petroleum-based products.
So therefore, we can assume that that nylon bag doesn't melt.
That nylon bag does not melt at the temperatures that they're subject to in the lab.
Fair. Now, looking at People's Exhibit 34-30.
This is a shed located to the southwest of the main structure.
And why are you taking a picture of a shed?
I'm documenting that shed is there and is unburned.
And 31.
I am this is inside that shed, noting that this is an area where fuel cans are stored.
And I may have forgotten to ask this. We've talked about you collecting the red gas can that was out in the front yard, correct?
Correct.
Why did you collect that?
At the point I collected it, I did not know if it was evidence but it could be potential evidence because it was found in an area not with the other cans.
And following your documentation with photographs, your inspections, your excavations, so on and so forth, did you also try to collect any samples in this case?
I did not.
Why not?
Because the area identified as the area of origin, the areas that I would have wanted to collect samples were gone. They were burned up. They didn't exist anymore.
And what would that have entailed if you could have collected?
It would have been the first floor. The flooring, any carpeting, any material on the first floor.
But your indication was those were totally consumed?
They are totally consumed, yes. Just as you can see by the earlier photographs from the basement up, there is no floor left.
And following your investigation at the scene, did you then go to another location on the 8th?
Yes.
Where did you go?
I went to the Van Buren County Sheriff's Department
What was your purpose in going there?
to package evidence that they had collected from the scene the night before, clothing and other material that were on Todd Stermer that night.
Do you recall what those were?
There was blankets, there was a coat, there was some clothes that came from Linda Stermer herself. They were in the evidence room of the Sheriff's Department, and I went in there and packaged them into nylon bags.
And did you collect any other evidence when you were at the Sheriff's Department?
At the Sheriff's Department, they also had metal paint cans that were collected at the autopsy of Todd Stermer. I collected those at that also.
And were you responsible for then transporting those items to the State Police Crime Lab?
I did. I transported all those items to the crime lab in Grand Rapids on January 11th.
Your Honor, can we approach very briefly? Sir, as a fire scene investigator, are you familiar with something called the scientific method?
Yes.
What is that, please?
Scientific method is a basic the basic method that investigation should occur. More of a not the nuts and bolts, but more of the mental process of doing an investigation.
Fair to say it's the process by which you arrive at your ultimate opinion in the case?
Yes.
And when conducting a fire scene investigation, are there two different conclusions that you must determine?
Yes.
What are those?
The first thing I must determine is the origin of the fire, where the fire starts, and then try to determine the cause or why it started.
Now, with respect to the scientific method, did you follow it in this case?
Yes.
And do you recall what the steps of the scientific method are?
The first two steps are determine a need or define a product, determine a need and find the problem, which is, we almost skip over those because it's always the same two things. There's a fire, and the action that needs to be taken is to determine the origin and cause. Next step is to collect data. And data can be anything from observable patterns, witness interviews, lab samples, all the data. The next step is analyze the data. The data that I've collected, observed, I look at it and try to determine what that means. The next step is to develop a hypothesis, a theory. I'm going to develop as many theories that I can initially. All the theory for what I'm doing. If I'm doing origin. I'm going to develop theories or hypotheses of all the areas where the fire could have started. Then, once I've developed these hypotheses, I'm going to test these hypotheses or theories. And I'm going to use the data I've collected. I'm going to take all the data and see if that data fits in to these theories or hypotheses. And as I go through there, if there is data that doesn't fit a certain hypothesis, then either the data is wrong, or if the data is right, that hypothesis cannot be right. If all the data cannot fit in to that hypothesis. And then at the very end, I take that last hypothesis, that becomes my final hypothesis. And again, I take all the data that's known, look at that hypothesis, and come to the final conclusion.
So with respect to what we've discussed here in court so far, you've gone through the first couple steps because you showed up to a fire scene, correct?
Correct.
As far as data collection, is that what we've also talked about here in court?
Yes.
And that would be your photographs, your scene examinations. Does that include your samples you may or may not have taken from a fire scene? Is that fair?
Yes.
Does that include witness statements as well?
Witness statements are very important.
And does that also include lab reports?
Lab reports are very important.
And in this specific case, did you recall receiving any laboratory reports related to the items you seized from Mr. Stermer or those you collected at the Sheriff's Department?
I did.
What was that, please?
The lab report, and I'm doing this without looking at the lab report myself. So the gray sweatpants that I collected on the 7th indicated positive for gasoline. The gasoline can that I collected tested positive for gasoline. The items that were packaged in the metal paint cans that came from autopsy, which included the left and right socks, the underwear, and a shirt, all tested positive for gasoline. Other items that were collected that I packaged myself in the Sheriff's Department evidence lab would have been the clothes from Linda Stermer, a blue blanket, a white blanket, and there may be another item that I packaged. Those items did not show the presence of ignitable liquid.
And if Mr. Ernst has already testified here in court about his findings, we would rely upon those exact findings. Is that fair?
Yes.
But you specifically recall the sweatpants, socks, and underwear of Mr. Stermer being positive for gasoline.
And the shirt.
And in addition to that, we talked about witness statements. Is that correct?
Correct.
Were you made aware, did you have an opportunity to review the statements of Linda Stermer?
I have.
What do you recall those being?
The witness statements from Linda Stermer as relates, and I was specifically looking at as it relates to the fire. They're pretty consistent that she was in the basement doing laundry when she heard Todd Stermer scream. She goes up the stairs and looks into the living room, on the main floor living room. She sees the chair, the recliner chair, on fire, and Todd on fire across the room towards the bedroom with a line of fire between the chair and Todd.
Thank you. Now, I may have gotten a little bit ahead of myself there, so I'm going to take a little step back. Let's talk about the area of origin if we can.
Okay.
Did you develop various hypotheses as far as what the area of origin may have been in the Stermer house?
The pretty standard, when I look at a house fire, the original hypothesis is the whole house. I look at the whole house as the fire starts here, and then through a process of elimination, I start examining each area and then decide if this is or if there's or is not the area of origin. Often when you start out, it's pretty easy as you start. That's the key word. When you start, it's pretty easy to look at a room where there's no fire damage and say, fire didn't start here, so you cross it off and you start moving closer. And typically you're moving from the least fire damage to the most fire damage, with the most fire damage typically being where the fire starts.
So, for instance, in this particular case, do you recall what your hypotheses were as far as the area of origin?
So the hypotheses for the area of origin, I broke down as east side of the structure, the south side of the structure, the basement, the living room, and the north side, which is going to be the kitchen dining room area.
All right, if we can work through those. Are those depicted in the photographs you have there in front of you?
Yes.
And if you can, let's start with the south side of the home. I think that was one of your hypotheses. Is that correct?
That is one, yes.
What photograph would be a good representation of that? Well, actually, strike that. Let me strike that. I apologize. Where would you have started?
I would have started at the front.
Let's go with that. What photograph would be best to start there then?
The front is 9. And we will probably go between 9 and 13.
All right, looking at 34-9. This is the front of the house, correct?
Correct.
What about, what considerations are you looking for in this photograph?
So in this photograph, I'm trying to look at fire spread. What did the fire do on this side or this exterior wall? So I look at the door, I look at the 2 windows. There's some minor sooting above the windows, but there's really no fire damage of significance to talk about. So that's telling me the fire didn't come out those windows. And if the fire would have started there, I would have expected that the fire to start to the east side. Now, as I'm doing this, also the thought process is comparative. So I'm going to compare the east room to the west room. Which one has worse fire damage? And that, because that changes scene to scene depending on the size and intensity of the fire. So for this case, that little bit of smoke coming out of that, it's going to be the left or south window, is pretty minor compared to the rest of the structure. Now, if we can skip to picture 13. So this is the aerial. At the bottom of the photograph, you can see a small roof, which is the roof over the porch. And you can see it's still there. It's not burned. But more importantly, if you look just beyond the porch, you can see a wall section and a window. And again, there's no fire damage or no fire coming out of that window. So that's telling me, compared to the rest of the house, there isn't as much fire damage. Now, in a situation like this, it's very important to distinguish between fire damage and collapse damage. So we're going to see a lot of collapse damage. The roof's collapsed, the floor's collapsed, but collapse damage is different than fire damage. So the fire is going to start, and that's going to cause the collapse. But what you can see in this photo, the window where the wall is, it's a large section. It's collapsed, but it's still there. It's not burned. It's not burned away. We look directly to the right, which is going to be the northeast corner of the house. We can also see large sections, and underneath the snow is actually sections of the roof. The roof is collapsed in. So there's still a lot of unburned material there. I also looked in those windows and those holes. I told you I really couldn't get in to the east side, but I did stick my head in and take photographs inside, like those holes that the fire department cut. I stuck my head in there and looked and determined the fire damage there was drastically less than the west side of the house. So with that, I was able to eliminate we're gonna call the the northeast quadrant as the area of origin.
Now, and shame on me for failing to ask this. Is there like a process by which a fire kind of progresses and spreads?
Yes, but that's a easy question that can lead to many complicated answers. Fire spread can be determined by fuel source, by ventilation, by location. So that's like a simplistic question where it can be very complicated as information comes forward.
Is there a way that a fire consumes a piece of fuel? For instance, well, strike that. We'll get to that later. With respect to collapse damage, you talked about that. What causes collapse damage?
Well, in my line of work, I'm not a structural engineer. So when I see collapse damage, it is a result of the fire. But the collapse is from the fire burning away structural members, floor, the center beam of the rafters. You see a lot of roof collapse because it burns away the peak where the trusses are, and then that makes the roof collapse. Or floor beams. Floor beams will be consumed, and that'll make the floor above them collapse.
Thank you. Now, when it comes to, so we just talked about, I think you said the northeast quadrant of the property. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you indicated that you were able to eliminate that as the area of origin?
correct.
Where is the next place you would have progressed to?
I want to progress to the south side.
South side?
The south side.
Okay.
So the south side, we can specifically see the roof is still there. It's still up. Let's switch over to photo 10. Don't worry, we'll go back to 13.
Excuse me?
10.
10? Oops, went too far. There we go.
So 10 is the south side of the structure. Again, I'm looking at the windows. There is fire coming out of the windows, more of the first floor than the basement. If you look at the basement windows, there's not even sooting on those windows. You look to the first floor windows, you can see there is some smoke, some light fire that melted the vinyl siding. And above that is going to be the attic space. And you can see where the fires burned through the attic space. This is telling me there's not a lot of fire in those rooms on the other side of those windows because the fire is not trying to vent out those windows. Vent is a fire department, both a firefighting and a fire investigation term, is where the fire is trying to get more oxygen to burn. The fire, most of us know that a fire needs oxygen to burn. That's how come if you throw a big pile of leaves on top of a campfire, it doesn't really do anything because the leaves have smothered the oxygen away. So now let's go back to 13 again. So 13, we can see the roof is still there. The roof hasn't collapsed. It didn't burn away. The only area is on the west side of the center line. Prosecutor Blair, if you could just zoom that area where that small burn area.
In this area here?
That area right there, yes.
Certainly.
So out of that roof section, this is the area of this section that is burned away. So I've noticed that this section is directly across from the living room versus the section on the other, and the center is the ridge line. The section to the south, or excuse me, to the east or to the bottom of the photograph, that is on the other side of the ridge line. That is significant because when fire gets into an attic space, regardless where, it's going to go to the peak. If you start a fire anywhere in the attic space, it's going to hit the roof section, it's going to hit the roof deck, and it's going to go up to the peak. And as it does that, it's going to start burning there. So we're going to have fire damage from where it enters the attic space going to the peak. So in this case, the fire is entering the attic on the west side of the peak. And you can see right at the very bottom, you can see the outline of the living room fireplace.
That'd be in this area here?
Yes, that's the living room fireplace. That at this point, that is just for reference purposes. So that helps me eliminate that. Now, remember the other photo from the inside. We're still talking about the south section. Let's look at photo 22.
Minutes or so. So whenever you can find a good spot between now and 5 minutes.
This is probably a good spot right
Okay.
now, actually. Your Honor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to jump into another photograph.
Okay, thank you. So Jerry, I'm going to send you home, and the broken record in me is going to tell you your instruction regarding media again. Everyone, welcome back. Ms. Siderby? Or Mr. Blair, I'm sorry. Sir, you will come up.
We're easily confused.
Yes.
See how that
As I've said before, you look so much alike.
Yes, easily confused. We will recall Scott Leroy to the witness stand. All right. So, Mr. Leroy, let's go ahead and, if we can, kind of recap yesterday, just summarize very briefly. We were talking about determining the area of origin. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And we were going through your various hypotheses as to what may have been the area of origin at the Stermer residence. Is that also correct?
Yes.
And we had already disproved, it sounds like, two of your hypotheses as far as areas of origin from yesterday. Do you recall that?
I'm just objecting. Waiver.
I didn't use the word disprove, I eliminated.
Eliminate. Fair.
Yes. Or I was still working on, I eliminated the east section of the house, and we were still discussing the south section.
Very good. And my memory serves correct. It looks like we were on People's Exhibit 34-13. And looking at 34-13, is that the photograph that's up on the screen?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And is that your recollection where we may have left off yesterday?
Yes, we left off there yesterday. I was discussing the remains of the southern section of roof section, and I'd drawn your attention to a small area of burning in the roof just to the west, or as we look at the photograph, the top portion of the ridge line of the roof. And I just suggested we switch to an interior view of the south section, which is going to be photo 22.
Before we go to 22, I did kind of neglect to ask this question of you. When you're evaluating burn damage, what are we looking for there?
Well, as I evaluate burn damage, I'm on the basics. I'm trying to find out how bad something is burned. And understanding the part that's burned the worst is the part that's gone. So, for instance, if we're at a campfire in the backyard and you put a log on the fire and it burns, and it gets late, you go in, come out the next morning, and there's still remnants of the log left. The part of the log that's the furthest away from the fire sometimes it's not even burned, but it has the least amount of char. And as you look down the log towards where the fire was, it gets smaller, because that is what we refer to as mass loss. The mass of the log has been consumed away, so there's mass loss. So that's one of the things we're looking for. If there's mass loss, that means this may have been closer to the fire. And then when you get down closer to where the fire was, there's nothing left. That's also a term of mass loss. So as I'm evaluating burn damage, that is one of the things I'm looking for, is the mass loss of material, or we'll also use the word fuel. And when a fire investigator uses the word fuel, don't confuse that with like fuel for your vehicle or anything. We're talking about anything that burns. Wood, paper, plastics, anything else that can burn, we consider fuel for the fire. So that's a generalization of when I'm looking at burn damage, what I'm doing. I'm trying to evaluate that burn damage to similar structures in that burn damage. The higher, the longer the burn, the more burn damage typically means that burned longer and it is closer to where the fire started.
Now, do you also evaluate burn damage on, say, things that are not part of the house, like a person?
Yes, it's one of the reasons I looked at Todd Stermer the night is to look at the burns on him. The burns on everything, furniture, the structure, and victims are part of the burn damage that need to be evaluated.
Very good. So now we're going to turn our attention, I believe you said, to picture number 22. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what are we looking at here again?
So this photograph, I was standing in the central portion of the basement, looking towards the south. So in the previous overhead shot, the area where the roof was still intact, this is the rooms directly underneath it. So this is going to be the rooms in the southwest quadrant of the structure. I'm looking for the fire damage in these two areas. One of the things to notice is the amount of debris on the floor of the second floor. Obviously, is
that the area I'm pointing to here?
Correct.
Yeah.
Obviously, the floor between the first floor and the basement is gone. But you can see there's still wood or wall structure that's unburned, especially if you look at the photo, the top left of the photo, you can see a wall section that is unburned. And you can see a large amount of debris that the prosecutor pointed to earlier on the floor. Now, this debris would be a accumulation from both floors. Actually, the debris you're looking at on the top, that likely came from the first floor when the floor burned away and it collapsed down. The significance there is the amount of debris in this area is more solid than the area to the center. So what I'm saying is there's less mass loss of the fuel in this area than the center area. That determination helped me eliminate the south side of the structure as an area of origin.
And is the fact that the roof still appears to be intact in that area relevant? I'm not sure if we talked about that.
Yes, it is. That's part of the overall mass and the burn area of the south side.
So at that point in time, then, you were able to eliminate that particular area of the house. Is that correct?
The south section, yes.
South section. Which section did you move on to next?
Next, let's go back to photo 13.
Certainly.
So I've eliminated the east section and the south section, so that leaves what I'm referring to as the center section and the quadrant in the northwest section. The northwest section, by evaluating it, obviously there's collapse damage. There is significant burn damage here, but by looking at it, I'm comparing the amount of mass of the fuel that's left, the amount of structure that's burned or unburned, and there is significantly more on the north side of unburned area. You can also see kind of in the middle between the north area and the center, there's studs. In this picture, they're actually kind of horizontal, but that's the picture of a wall that's collapsed down. But those studs are still intact, which denoted a wall section between the north part and the central part.
Just so the record's clear, we're talking about the area in the kind of upper right part of the photo here where I'm circling with my pointer?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And so at this point in time, were you able to eliminate that area, or is there additional evidence you need to consider?
So at that point, I eliminated that area, the northern area, as an area of origin. So now I'm concentrating on the center section. The center section has 2 floors, the main floor and the basement. I can see this photo. You can see it's this photo. You can see at the top of the photo, there is the exterior wall that appears to have remnants of a bay windows that would
This area here, sir?
yes,
Okay.
that you would expect to see with a cathedral ceiling. So I'm going to examine this area. Now I want to determine if it's the first floor or the basement where the fire starts. So if we can pull up photo 12.
12?
So we're examining the west side or back side of the structure from the exterior. Important things to notice is, now I've already eliminated those sections, so I'm kind of concentrating on the center portion. I'm looking at the fire damage that's coming out of the windows. So where is the fire from inside the house first and longest coming out of the house? We look to the large bow windows. We can see there's heavy charring all around those window sections. We've already seen that the roof in this area is consumed away. Now, if you look to the right, we're still talking the main floor, the area that I previously eliminated, but you can see that there's fire coming out of that window, and you can see the black, and it kind of comes out in kind of a cone shape out of the window as the fire does. Now let's compare those 2 areas, the burn damage there, to the windows on the basement level.
That would be these windows down in this area here.
Correct. So notice the amount of fire, or specifically lack of fire, coming out of those windows. Let's go to photo 17. So this is the close-up of the door leading into the basement. We've talked about how heavy the fire is to the windows above, but this basement window, there is no fire coming out of that door. And the 2 windows on the side, the one to the left doesn't have any smoke or fire coming out of it. The one to the right has some smoke and probably a little bit of heat coming out of it. But comparatively to those other windows, and especially the windows above, dramatically less. The reason for this is, let me say it a different way. As I'm thinking about area of origin, if I think, what would this look like if this fire started in the basement? If that fire had started in the basement in this center section, what would that fire do? It would eventually go up to the ceiling, which is going to be the first floor, and from there it's going to start spreading to other areas of the basement, including venting out those windows. Now, if it goes long enough, it will eventually burn through the floor, and then it will go up into the living room. But before that happens, it's going to burn and spread through the basement. Let's look at it the other way around. If the fire starts on the first floor, where's that fire going to go? The fire's going to want to go up. So as it goes up and it starts spreading on that main floor, it's going to spread, eventually go through the windows, and then it will start attacking the roof. At some point, the roof, in this case, burned, collapsed, and when it collapsed, it came down. When it came down, and then it started burning away the floor. At some point in this incident, the floor burned away, and then all of that debris on the first floor now dropped into the basement. But since the roof was already burned away, the fire will go straight up instead of going sideways. It's sort of like if you're outside and you have a burn barrel, and you have all kinds of holes in the side of the burn barrel. When you light something on fire in that burn barrel, the fire doesn't come out the holes in the side because it can go straight up and out. So that's kind of an analogy for what's going on here. Because the roof is already burned away, the fire that's now in the house can go straight up and not out those windows. So given that information, I've now narrowed my area of origin to the main floor living room in the central part of the house, central west part of the house.
And if we flip back to People's Exhibit 13, that would be this area right here where I'm circling with my pointer. Is that correct?
Yes. If you could you zoom in to that area real quick?
Yes.
So the boundaries of that room, you can see towards the bottom of the photograph, there's a wall section that is above the fireplace. So that would be the eastern wall of the living room. On the left side where that roof is, that would be the boundary for the south side of the living room. We know you can see the exterior is the boundary to the west side of the living room. And where you see that wall collapsed, that would be the boundary for the north side of the living room. So in that area that we're looking at right now, on the main floor, is the area of origin. Is what I determined to be the area of origin.
So you determined the area of origin to be the living room of the Stermer residence.
Correct.
And in determining the area of origin, at the time you determined this originally, did you have information about the statements of what Linda Stermer had stated to either Mr. Shinsky or other investigators?
Not at this point, no.
And had you received any information about the gasoline present on Mr. Stermer's sweatpants, if you recall?
I had not received well, I hadn't even taken the sweatpants to the lab at this point.
Okay.
Because this was all done on the January 8th.
And I think we've already touched on this a little bit. The next finding you need to make is basically the cause of the fire. Is that fair?
Correct.
And how is it you go about doing that?
To determine the cause, I say cause, what started the fire? What was the ignition source of the fire is trying to determine the cause of the fire. It's one of kind of the same process, the scientific method as we did with origin. I'm looking in the area of origin, and I'm doing what is there that can start a fire. Now, I'm breaking this down into origin and cause and section, but as the two in real life kind of happens simultaneously. As I'm looking through the house, I'm taking notice. As I'm looking for the area of origin, I'm obviously taking notice of items that may be a cause of the fire or need to be considered a cause of the fire. We kind of break it down, one for analysis purposes, one or the other, but really it almost happens at the same time as you're walking around. So in the area of origin, things I considered at what could start the fire: the fireplaces and associated chimney, considered smoking, electrical, the furnace, the laundry machines, and I also considered an intentionally set fire as a possible fire cause. So then I start examining those to see if I can eliminate them from the scenario.
Are you familiar with the term ignition source?
Yes.
What is that?
Ignition source is something that generates enough heat to ignite or catch fire a piece of fuel.
And are you familiar with the term first fuel ignited?
The term is pretty self-explanatory. The ignition source comes into the fuel that is first ignited or first caught on fire.
Fair enough. Let's, if we can, then work through your hypotheses as to what may have caused the fire at the Stermer residence, if we can. What was the first hypotheses you would have tested against the data you collected?
The first one I would have looked at is the laundry machines. We have one photo of, got a couple photos actually. If we go to photo 23.
Certainly.
So when we introduced this photo yesterday, I mentioned you could directly in the middle of the photograph on the other side of those 2x4s is a white vertical. That is the side of one of the laundry machines. And then we don't need to go to it, but we also showed a photo of the dryer. Those can be eliminated as a fire cause because they're not in the area of origin. They're on the other side of that 2x4 wall, and there is, if one of the mental exercises a fire investigator goes through when he looks at an area of an ignition source, excuse me, is you look at that and say, okay, if this started the fire, what would this fire look like? If the fire starts in one of those laundry machines or at one of those laundry machines, it's going to spread from the laundry room, it's going to go up, it's going to spread outward. Well, as it does that, it's going to start consuming fuel, the structure of the house. Well, in this case, in order for that amount of fire damage to occur in the living room, it would have had to, the fire from the laundry room would have had to burn through that wall or up the stairs. Well, there's still significant mass left of that wall. As a matter of fact, if you look at those studs, 2x4s, they're not even smoked. The typical reason those aren't even smoked in this case is because they had drywall on them. If you can see that center 2x4 towards the bottom, you can see a little, right there, you can see a strip that's kind of greenish and white. That's leftover drywall or gypsum board. So that was on that wall, and drywall serves as a fire barrier. And so that would have kept the fire from the laundry room into the living room. The reason it's gone now is during fire suppression, that drywall gets crumbly in the fire, and then when it's hit with a high pressure water hose, then it falls off. So with that I can eliminate laundry machines as the cause of the fire. I also considered the furnace. Let's look at photo 26. This is right in the center of the photograph. You can see the sheet metal. That is the furnace. Again, notice the amount of structural material that's still there compared to the living room. And go to photo 27. That is a closer view of the furnace. Now the furnace is damaged because the upper stories collapsed on top of it. So there was damage. I examined the fuel lines, didn't find any significant leak in the fuel lines that I could see visually or I could test. And there was structural damage, or the structural damage around the furnace was less than the area of origin in the living room. So with that, I was able to eliminate the furnace as a cause of the fire.
What would be another possible hypothesis you would consider as to the cause of this fire?
One of the hypotheses was smoking, but I learned that there was no smoker, or that no one smoked cigarettes in the Stermer household. I think occasionally, I was said that Todd would occasionally smoke a pipe, but no one smoked cigarettes in the home.
And did you receive any indication that anyone was smoking in the house that day?
I did not.
And what else did you consider as a possible hypothesis for the cause of the fire?
I considered electrical cause. Well, let me back up. I considered an electrical cause. Electrical cause is a little more difficult because a lot of the electrical components are missing, which is not uncommon when you're doing a fire investigation, especially one of this magnitude, that sometimes the electrical components just are gone. So you have to consider how the fire burned, the fire dynamics. And you have to consider where the electrical is located. Electrical is located typically in the walls or the ceiling. So if the electrical system malfunctioned or failed, that fire is going to be in the wall. And electrical fires start small. So if you think about if you have something plugged into an outlet and that starts sparking and catches on fire, Well, that fire is going to start small and is going to slowly grow. It's not going to be a large, expansive fire at the onset. It's going to slowly grow. The indication, number one, we noticed a lot of the walls are still in place. Right? When we looked at the photographs for the southern bedrooms, we had that one wall that was still there. We still had significant wall structure on I'm talking about studs. The studs are left on the north side. So if an electrical fire would start in those walls, we wouldn't see those studs, because they would have to, same thing. The fire would have to burn out, get rid of those studs before it could get into the living room and burn up to the roof. And the origin is not coming from any of the wall areas. It's coming more from the living space of the living room, on the first floor living room. So given the fire dynamics, the way the fire reacted, and the lack of initial damage to the walls, I eliminated electrical cause at that point.
Now, you mentioned an electrical fire is kind of a fire that starts small. Is that what you elaborated on here?
Correct.
And is that if you can opine on this, a fast developing fire or a kind of a smoldering, slow developing fire?
The development of the fire would all depend on the fuel load around it. The electrical short or the electrical fire starts small, but if that electrical fire happened to have been surrounded by styrofoam, it's going to burn faster than if it was just touching wood. So that varies.
Would there be smoke?
There would be smoke.
And to your understanding, how many people were in the Stermer residence on January 7th, 2007?
I was told on both 7th and the 8th that there was 2 people in the residence, Todd Stermer and Linda Stermer.
And is the fact that there are 2, and this fire occurred about what time, if you recall?
3:30 in the afternoon or 2:30? I'd have to look at the report to get the exact time, but it was in the afternoon.
In the afternoon. And typical hours when people would be awake?
Correct.
And does that factor into this decision at all, that there were 2 persons in the home that would likely be awake?
Yes, I was given initial information from the Van Buren County detectives who did some initial interviews on the 7th that there were 2 people. Linda and Todd were in the house at the time of the fire, and they were both awake. Todd may have been taking a nap, but Linda was awake. These were some initial statements that the Sheriff's Department relayed to me.
So I guess to kind of get to the bottom of my question here, and to your knowledge, were either of the Stermers disabled or invalid of any kind?
Not that I'm aware of.
In fires you've investigated before, does that play a role in that, in when there's a fatality or something sometimes?
Yes, it does.
How so?
I've done fatal fires before where people were bed-bound or wheelchair-bound. I think one of the fires, the person was wheelchair-bound, and the fire started in their lap from smoking, and because they're wheelchair-bound and they're by themselves, they couldn't escape. Same thing, I've had people who are bedridden, fire starts, and they're unable to escape because they physically can't move. Also, occasionally, I've had it where people are known to be intoxicated and in bed, and this can also impair their ability to escape or to self-rescue themselves from a fire.
Would you agree with the premise then that the likelihood that a person is awake and not invalid, for lack of better words, would increase the chance that they may notice a small fire or a fire starting slowly? Don't think so at all. I think it's high.
Overrule that, I don't think it's.
Yes, I would take that in consideration. The general condition of a person and how quickly they discovered the fire or they could take action about the fire, both mental and physical state.
I mean, this kind of goes without saying, but does smoke have a smell to it?
Typically.
do electrical fires have a certain smell to them?
They do, and sometimes they're associated with sound,
What kind of sound?
like an arcing sound. Not everyone. Electrical fires is kind of a broad category, and I got to be very careful to try to lump one generalization to all electrical fires.
And when you describe an arcing sound, is it like an electrical current kind of sound? Like the sound of
If you take two wires and you touch them together, and it's going to go, you can hear the zap pop, and if you're holding the wires, you usually jump.
Fair. Thank you. Just want to make sure everyone understood that in case people haven't played with electricity. What was the next? So at that point in time, I guess, were you able to eliminate electrical?
I eliminated electrical as a fire cause at that point.
What was the next hypothesis you would have tested in this case?
I examined and considered the fireplace for a hypothesis. On the day of my exam on the 8th, I believe I was aware that there could have been a fire in the upstairs fireplace from the information that was passed to me by the Sheriff's Department detectives.
If I can stop you right there, when we say upstairs, we're talking about the main floor of the house. Is that correct? Okay.
There's basement and the main floor, and if I misspeak, I say main floor, first floor, I'm meaning the main floor where the living room is.
Very good.
So I started examining the fireplaces. Let's look at photo 19.
Is that photo 19 on the screen?
This is photo 19. This is the main floor fireplace. Before I talk about this, I just want to can go to photo 20 real quick. Yes, that's photo 20. I documented what was inside the fireplace, and there is burnt wood in the fireplace. So that tells me there may have been a fire. Now, obviously, is it possible that fire debris during the collapse got in there? It's possible, but unlikely, because the collapse is going to come straight down versus jump sideways. This is likely it's probable that there was a fire in that main floor fireplace. Now we can go back to 19. So I'm examining the fireplace. To understand the construction of this fireplace, this is a modern fireplace versus I'll call an old-time hand-built fireplace. Old-time hand-built fireplace, the kind you'll find in the nice farmhouses that are 150 years old. They were built piece by piece with stone or brick, made the firebox where the fire actually was built. There was a brick or clay liner in the chimney that went up to carry the smoke out. Typical modern fireplaces are a contained steel box, and that's what you're looking at there. And out of the top of the steel box is a steel round chimney pipe. Sometimes it's referred to as a vent or a flue, and that is the round chimney pipe that's connected to that firebox, the steel firebox, and then it runs up, eventually out through the roof. Then what's the important part for that is the actual fireplace construction. Typically then, people build walls around because nobody wants to look at the ugly backside of a metal fireplace or the chimney. So they'll build walls around it, and sometimes you'll see they'll actually put like brick or stone on these walls, but that's just for decoration. The walls themselves are typically built of wood, and I refer to that as the chimney chase. So that's the area inside or around the chimney, the metal chimney, that's separating that chimney from the rest of the living portion of the house, is this chase. And it's typically built with wood. It may be drywalled. Sometimes they'll have OSB on there. It varies on construction, but that's a chimney chase. if there is, so I'm considering ignition sources from the fireplace. Did the chimney malfunction? Was there a chimney fire? If the chimney malfunctions, I've seen it where holes have developed in chimney pipe. So now the hot gases from the smoke that go up the chimney can escape the chimney itself and get into this chase area. Now this chase area is built with, especially in this case, you can see it's built with wooden structural members. So that those wooden structural members have some sort of sheeting on the outside. Could be OSB, could be drywall. That's going to contain, just like we talked about earlier with the laundry machines. If that hot smoke or gases are in that chase, that's going to contain that hot gases and eventual fire for a while inside that chase. The fire inside that chase is going to go up, typically burn out the roof at the top of the chase, and then it's going to eventually spread outward. And as it spreads outward, it's going to consume the fuel or the wooden structural material that make up that chase to proceed. And typically that'll always happen at the top versus the bottom, depending on where the hot gases from the chimney collect the most and longest for the fire to start. Excuse me. You can see here on the photo 19, this is the upstairs fireplace again, and you can see the remnants of the wall that was built around it. This wall would have been part of the chimney chase, where the metal chimney would have gone behind it. You can see there's 3 2x4 studs still in place and intact to the right. There's one directly above that is broken up to the left. That's broken off, but in your mind's eye, you can straighten it up and you can see where it would be. And there's one that's missing directly above it, of the fireplace. There's an area where there should have been one. If you know what you're looking for, right at the bottom, you can see the stub where the nails were, right there, yeah. There was one. Now, that's obviously, remember, we've had a lot of fire in here and structural collapse. And we've also have that 2x6 that runs horizontally right across the top of the fireplace. That still has clean wood and burned. So like I mentioned before, that likely had drywall on it up until the fire hoses hit it and knocked it off. So looking at the damage profile, specifically the lack of damage there, that's significant in considering this as a chimney fire or a fireplace fire. Additionally, if we look at photo 21, this is the chimney pipe that I collected from inside the structure. Later, yesterday we talked about excavating. Later I would excavate then it would be the basement floor, but had the debris from both the basement, main floor, and the roof directly above in this area. This chimney pipe was located. I moved it out and I put it here. I examined it and nothing extraordinary came to my attention. Obviously, if you look at it, it's bent, it's burned, but remember there was a whole house burning on top of it at one point. So, and the collapse happened, that's going to disform the metal, disform the pipe, and it was under burning roof sections for a while. So there is fire damage. But what I discovered is there was nothing obvious to me that would indicate there was something wrong with that chimney. And that also states for the fireplace itself. I didn't find anything obvious with the metal fireplace box that would show that it malfunctioned or there was something wrong with it. And that backs up with the lack of burning of the wooden stud members around it. At that point, I could eliminate the fireplace and chimney as a potential ignition source.
If I can back up then to number 19, I guess, and maybe I missed this, but can you explain why it is you would expect this stud right here to be burned?
If the fireplace was the start of the fire is going to be directly above the fire. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm doing that again. Is going to be directly above the fireplace, and that's going to be one of the first structural members that are going to burn.
And so I guess just by the dynamic, would we expect then, as it burns to the roof, hot material to be falling down on top of the fireplace? Or what do we...
It depends if we're talking about the fires in the chase or outside the chase.
Inside the chase.
If it's inside the chase, the fire's going to go up inside the chase. If it burns the roof section, that'll eventually burn and fall down into and sit on top of the fireplace itself. I've seen fires in new houses before where the cellulose insulation will fall in. And on top of that firebox, and start the fire on top of that box, of the firebox. But the fire is inside the chase, sitting on top of that metal firebox, not in the place where the fire is supposed to be, which is surrounded by like fire bricks. So yes, if the fire was down there, we'd expect to burn off that area.
And what other hypothesis did you consider as to the cause of the fire?
I considered the possibility of a log rolling out of the fireplace. The entire living room was consumed. The floor, the furniture, the whole thing was consumed. So by looking at that hypothesis, that was more of a mental examination of the fire dynamics. So we think about, okay, what would happen if a log on fire rolled out into the room? If that burning log is sitting in the middle of the room, the fire from that log is still going to go up. It's going to start burning the floor underneath it, but for the fire to spread from that log, it's going to take a significant amount of time. And when I mean significant, I mean it's going to take several minutes for it to really spread, versus if a log rolls onto your floor in your living room, the whole living room floor isn't going to burst into flames. It's going to take a while for it to progress. Same thing if that log, let's say, rolled all the way over and was up against the couch. The couch is going to catch fire, yes, but if you would watch it, it would start at the log, it would start slowly moving up and into the couch and start slowly spreading on the couch. And of course, as it's doing this, it's giving off smoke and heat that would be easily detectable by someone in the house before it could spread to the entire living room area. So with that dynamic eliminates the log hypothesis as a fire cause.
And if I can kind of circle back to the idea of a chimney or a fireplace fire, you indicated that those are kind of, it takes time for the heat to build up before that fire can erupt, for lack of better words.
Because yes, the main heat is contained in the firebox and in the chimney. How that heat gets out usually comes from a small, like a chimney, even a chimney fire. It's a chimney fire that escapes the chimney. It's coming through a small hole. So that's all the heat has to come through that small hole until at some point it ignites the surrounding chimney chase. That can take time. Obviously, times are very subjective depending on how close the combustible materials are to the chimney, how long has it been, and how old is it, the materials that are made of. So that's very subjective. But yes, it doesn't. If you have a hole in your chimney, you start a fire, it's not going to the whole thing isn't going to burst into flames. There's going to be a progression.
In that progression, would there be smoke?
There would be.
And is that something that possibly a person who's not invalid would possibly notice within the residence?
Not any kind of human factors expert. What somebody would or would not do is not within his expertise.
I think he's capable of testifying based on his training experience about he's investigated these in the past. I think it's fairly reasonable.
I'll allow it.
A typical person should notice smoke in their house. Where that, again, every fire is a little different, so I can't say if this would have been chimney fire exactly how the smoke and heat would have progressed.
Fair, thank you. And so we've talked about a log rolling out, and you have eliminated that. What is your next hypothesis that you went to?
One of the hypotheses I considered was during the interviews, the initial interviews with Linda Stermer, she mentioned that there was some oil candle on the, I believe it was the half wall between the living room and the dining room on the north side. Again, I considered that. Again, that is a small fire source. I don't know what this oil candle looked like. I'm using generalization terms. I'm assuming it is a normal, could be as much as a lantern, an oil lantern, or a smaller candle that's from.
Well, then, yeah, he's describing what are possible oil lanterns that he's encountered, so I think he's even said he doesn't know what it was, but he's just describing what they could be.
I'll allow it.
I was given information that there was an oil candle in the area. I do not know the size or makeup of it. But if this candle broke or tipped over, again, the fire is going to be relatively small. And it's going to be contained over towards the area of where it was located, which is the half wall towards the north side of the living room. That did not, again, that also has a hard time meeting the challenge of going undiscovered until it was a very large fire.
And these oil lamps, are you familiar with what type of fuel they burn?
The typical oil that these lamps burn are lamp oil. It would actually, if it's tested in a lab, it would come back referred to as a heavy petroleum distillate, which is the same as kerosene or diesel fuel.
And in this case, did you ever receive any lab reports that there was a heavy, what you just described here in court, present in the Stermer residence?
In the lab results back, there were no indications of a heavy petroleum distillate.
Thank you. And what was the next hypothesis you would have considered?
The next hypothesis I considered was an intentionally started fire. With this hypothesis, the one piece of data on this date, I had smelled accelerant on Todd Stermer's pants. I later learned to further that hypothesis, I waited until I got lab results. I got the lab results back that Todd Stermer's pants had gasoline on them. So I took that information and said, does that fit what I have at the scene? So with a gasoline is on Todd Stermer, and Todd Stermer is also severely burned. So remember I talked about burns on people are also burn patterns. Just like looking at the structure, the burns on Todd Stermer indicated he was at or near the.
Move to strike. One, he's not a medical expert under Smelser versus Norfolk Railway. He can't testify to medical conditions.
He's not
He's
testifying
not
about a medical
qualified for that.
condition. He's talking about the burns. It burns
He's
on
talking
his
about
body.
Well,
causation.
but you're both talking. at the
Sorry.
same time.
Thank you. He's talking about causation, burn patterns, causing whatever this degree of injury is. That's a medical opinion he can't make.
I don't think that's what he was testifying to. I think
Just
Mr.
asking about burn pattern.
Yeah.
How long the testimony is to burn patterns?
As a result, burns on a person is a burn pattern. It is stated right in NFPA 921 that burns on a human is a burn pattern.
You just mentioned NFPA 921. We haven't heard that here in court yet today. What is that?
Okay.
What is that, please?
NFPA 921, it's a long acronym. The NFPA stands for National Fire Protection Association. The National Fire Protection Association puts out volumes and volumes of information about building construction, safety precautions, anything to do with fire. And there's so many of them, they give them a number. So the specific number, NFPA, National Fire Protection Association 921, is the document that the National Fire Protection Association puts out as a guide to fire investigations. And that is updated, well, now it's updated about every 3 years.
Guide, or has it also been considered a reference manual?
It's a guide, it's a reference manual.
Very good. So again, we just talked about you considered the burns on Todd Stermer. How is that relevant to your determination of an intentionally set fire?
We know that Todd, with the burns on Todd, I know he is at or near the area of origin. And with the gasoline, positive for gasoline on his sweatpants, that says there is gasoline at or near the area of origin. Now the gasoline at the area of origin actually fits the description of a fast-moving fire, where instead of a small individual area, the whole area is on fire at the same time.
Well, let's go this way. Does the statement of Linda Stermer that you reviewed factor into this as well?
Linda Stermer's statement is very important to my factor.
Why is that?
Because Linda Stermer was at the scene. She was in the house, and she was able to give statements. Witness statements are very important. Her statement was that she was in the basement. She heard Todd upstairs scream. She ran upstairs and she saw the living room on fire. Subsequent statements, that was the initial statement I believe she gave the detective route. Then later statements were more specific. It says, started the same, in the basement, heard Todd scream, ran up the stairs, described seeing the recliner towards the north side of the living room on fire. Todd was towards the south in the living room with his upper torso on fire. And there was fire on the floor between Todd and the recliner. That description of a very quick starting fire, of she's in the basement, she's awake, and she hears a scream, that would be in. Then she goes upstairs and finds this large fire, not concentrated in one area, but it's spread in two areas across the room with a connecting fire between. That is an indication of a fast fire, which would be explained by the presence of an ignitable liquid, gasoline, which would lead to, there's been no evidence of why gasoline should be in the living room. That would to lead me to believe this is an intentionally set fire.
Now, additionally, for lack of a word, trail of fire from essentially one side of the living room to the other was described by Linda Stermer. Is that what your testimony was?
Yes.
And in your line of work, is that described as something?
It can mean several things.
Okay.
I'd prefer just to leave it at that statement.
Okay, fair enough. So your conclusion, based on your review of the evidence, and I'm summarizing the gasoline and what was described by Linda Stermer, is this was an intentionally set fire. Is that correct?
Correct. And this also, I also use this to confirm my origin determination. She says the origin is in the main floor, first floor living room.
And so we've already kind of talked about what the first fuel ignited is earlier. Do you have an opinion as to what the first fuel ignited in this case was?
Yes, I do.
What was that?
The first fuel ignited was fumes from the gasoline.
And let's talk about that a little bit. How does gasoline burn, for lack of a better way to describe it?
Gasoline, as we know, is liquid. We put it in our lawnmowers and our cars. People who are unsafe sometimes try to use it to get their leaves burning. When you burn gasoline, it's actually not the liquid that burns, it's the vapor that comes off the gasoline that burns. So if you've ever seen videos of people pour gasoline on a pile of leaves and then they start walking up to it with something to light it, and it catches on fire before they get to the pile of leaves, that's because the vapors from the gasoline, the liquid gasoline, has now evaporated and spread into a vapor cloud until it hits an ignition source, and then it ignites.
And does the fact that the gasoline may be indoors or outdoors affect how that may happen?
The environment as a whole, indoors or outdoors, is going to affect, is there a wind, the temperature, if it's hotter outside, the gasoline is going to evaporate quicker. Any air currents are going to move the vapor around.
And in this case, I've already asked you what the ignition source. Did you determine what you believe to be the ignition source in this case?
The ignition source would have been open flame.
Do you have any idea what the source of the open flame may have been?
I do not know definitively what the open flame would be.
But we do know there was a fire burning in the fireplace per the statements of Linda Stermer.
There was open flame in the living room from statements and indications that there's logs, so there would have been open flame in the fireplace.
Now, we've talked about what you kind of touched on it already. What is a flash fire?
A flash fire is almost self-descriptive. It's a fire that immediately propagates quickly, like a flash. It goes very fast. It would be indicative of a gasoline fire.
So, for instance, when the vapors of a gasoline poured someplace are exposed to an open flame.
Correct. It's the vapors are going to ignite. The fire and the vapors are going to spread to the source, which is typically going to be the liquid gasoline, because that's where the source of the gasoline vapors came from. And then the fire is then going to make the liquid gasoline evaporate faster because it's hotter, and then it'll be burned more, and it'll burn faster until the gasoline, in some cases, is burned up.
And that was my next question. Can fire totally consume gasoline,
Yes,
leaving no trace?
it is possible. Yes.
And just so the record's clear, and Judge, I'm going to ask this as a leading question so we don't go afoul of anything. You are not offering any opinion here today as to who set this fire, correct?
No.
You indicated earlier there was a fuel oil furnace in this house. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is fuel oil different from gasoline?
It is.
How so?
So they're both petroleum products, but they're refined differently. If you were to take fuel oil and submit it to the laboratory for analysis, that would come back as a heavy petroleum distillate. The lab, if you ever had Troy Ernst, he probably described this better than I did, but it is different than gasoline. Gasoline can be determined specifically, where the other petroleum distillates are put into broad categories of heavy, medium, and light petroleum distillates. Fuel oil would be a heavy petroleum distillate, along with kerosene and some lamp oils.
Thank you. Nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Mueller, cross.
Thank you. Morning, sir.
Good morning.
You and I have met before one time, correct?
Yes.
June of 2001?
I'll take your word for the date.
Okay, I'll give you, take my word, it's the 16th and 17th of June 2021, now one.
That sounds correct.
And I asked you a bunch of questions, right?
Yes.
And you were under oath?
Yes.
And you told me the truth
Yes.
under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
So we look back at that testimony, we can take that as the truth, fair?
Depends on what you take of it.
I'm sorry?
Depends on what you take out of it, but yes, it's the truth.
Okay. Can we agree as we start here, if you don't have a cause of the fire as being suggesting an intentional fire, intentionally set fire, we don't have a crime of arson?
That is correct.
Okay. And we'll talk about the classifications, but you and I talked about that before, right?
Yes.
There are 4 classifications of fires.
I guess we need to clarify from where he's referring.
Council knows, or
Well,
knows.
it depends if you're talking about under the,
I'll allow.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll allow it if you understand the
Thank you.
question.
Let me break this down. You and I have talked about this before, right? There's an accidental fire, correct?
Correct.
That could be a toaster burned up. Fair?
Yes.
We have natural causes of fires. That would be lightning strikes, that kind of thing, right?
Correct.
Then we have what's called undetermined.
Correct.
You just can't tell, right?
Correct.
And sometimes the damage is so big and so much that you can't tell, right?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. And it's not an embarrassment to you as a fire origin and cause expert to be able to say, I just can't tell, there's not enough here.
That's
Fair?
correct.
It wouldn't be embarrassing to you, right?
That's correct.
In fact, it would probably be intellectually honest to admit, I just can't tell. Fair?
That is correct.
Then we have an intentional or an incendiary fire, it's called, right?
Correct.
And that would be, excuse me, correct me if I'm wrong, but an intentionally set fire under circumstances where a fire shouldn't happen.
Yes.
And that's what you're calling this,
Correct.
an incendiary fire.
Yes.
And that's the one that supports a crime.
Correct.
And out of those 4 categories, only an incendiary fire supports crime, correct?
Not necessarily.
If you can't, let's go back to
No.
one thing.
Okay. Not necessarily. The crimes can be prosecuted with an undetermined cause. I've seen it in the past.
Okay. If you don't have a cause of a fire, you can't find the classification of the fire, fair? You can't tell what happened. You said the origin is the where, correct?
Correct?
And the cause is the why.
Correct.
And if you don't have the why, you can't say a crime occurred, fair?
I don't make the determination if a crime has occurred.
If arson, I'm just talking about arson.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I think we're asking for legal conclusions at this point in time. Prosecutor's office could charge a crime based on an undetermined fire. He's already testified to it, so I think we got to ask an answer. Else, we're asking for legal
The
conclusions.
question is simply, if you don't have the cause, the why, you can't even classify the fire.
That question's fine.
You can't even classify the fire because you can't tell why it happened, right?
Well, the classification you just said was undetermined.
You can't tell why a fire happened. You can't classify it, right?
Objection, asked and answered.
Yeah, I didn't get an answer for you.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Yes or no?
If I can't tell the what, the why, then it
Yeah.
would be classified as an undetermined fire.
Okay. Let's talk about this excavation you said that you did, all right? On January 8th.
Yes.
On January 8th, you did an excavation, and as we know, the living room was the area of origin, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to show you, you've already admitted this as Exhibit O, floor plan of the living room. You've seen this before, right?
I have not.
Does that represent to you what the floor plan of the house looked like?
Yes.
Okay. And you know that the living room, as you said, was the origin, area of origin of the fire, right?
Correct.
And you excavated that to get important data.
I excavated the basement that was below the living room.
The living room you showed us on that aerial photo had collapsed into the basement.
Correct.
So anything regarding the living room would have been in the basement.
Correct.
And you've testified that that was 2 feet of rubble, correct?
I didn't say 2 feet of rubble.
Okay. Let's look. Well, may I approach, Your Honor? I have a prior testimony in this case. Why don't we look at the part that says Dalbear 1? Okay?
I guess if I can, Your Honor, as to the form of the way the question's being asked, is he asking about 2 feet of rubble today or now the previous hearing, I think is where we're going, but I think it's confusing question.
You have testified that the area,
If you could just clarify what he's saying now, and then, and are you pursuing prior and consistent, or?
you're
with us
telling us you
ruling?
don't know how deep the rubble was in the basement that you excavated?
No, you asked me if I testified to 2 feet of rubble. And I-
Do you admit there's 2 feet of rubble in the basement?
Approximately 2 feet of rubble. That's an approximation. I never measured it.
Could be 3.
I never measured it.
Okay. If there's 2 feet of rubble, and we know from the living room that it's 18 by 18, you see that?
Yes.
Yes?
Between the 118,
18 feet. This was 18 feet.
okay.
And there's a little bit of more. You'd have to add the area to, right?
Yes.
Do you know how to do that? Add calculated area?
Yes.
Sines, cosines, tangents, Pythagorean theorem?
I'm aware of how to do area.
Can we agree, like we had before, that that's about the total 20 by 20, roughly?
I'm just looking at the 118, and there's no 18, but that's, 18. Yes, that's 18 by 18 with a little bit left. I didn't see the 18 at the bottom.
Okay, we say roughly 20 by 20?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that's the area of origin, correct?
Yes.
And if we took about a 20 by 20, if we measure from you roughly about to that first row, about 20 feet?
I don't know how far that is. 20, the first row? It's a little further than that, I think, but you have the measuring tape.
Would you like to hold the one and we'll measure it? Thank you. If I may.
Oops, sorry. I actually didn't mean to do that.
That's the dummy angle. Let's take it. I need you to hold 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and about 20 feet right here.
Okay?
We good?
Yep.
And if I told you that 20 feet was about... Thank you. I'll go. From the jury box to about here,
Approximate.
approximately. So we have an area of origin in the living room of this whole area here, correct?
Correct.
And you can't narrow it down where the fire started amongst anywhere in here.
I cannot.
Could have started over in this area over here, right? Could have started by the fireplace,
Not against the fireplace.
but anywhere in here, you don't know.
Correct.
But you dug out the rubble, right?
Yes.
In this 18 by 20 by 20 spot, right?
Yes.
2 feet of rubble, correct?
Approximately.
And you had a person with you, Greg Stormzan from the Michigan State Police,
Yes.
and you deposited the rubble, as I believe, on the west side and the back side of the house, correct?
I would have. Yes.
Well, you did, correct?
Yes.
Put it on the west side of the house,
Yes.
and you cleared the basement, because that's how you do it, right?
I
You gotta-
put not the entire basement, just the area underneath the living room.
So there would be basically a clear area of 18 by 18 in that house if somebody came after you, correct?
Yes.
You made this rubble pile, and this rubble pile should be, well, if we say 20 by 20 by 2, that's 800 cubic feet, right?
I don't know how much the rubble pile would have been.
Well, you didn't do 800 cubic feet of excavation and put that outside, did you?
I have no idea.
Did you create a rubble pile of approximately 4 feet by 8 feet and 7 feet high?
It was not a 7-foot high pile.
Let's go to your testimony at that Daubert hearing on 162, lines 7 to 11.
Your Honor, can we approach real quick?
You there?
Yes, on the first page, yes. Daubert 1, yes.
Well, just prior hearing on page 162 at line 7. You with me?
162, line, what line?
Line 7.
Line 7.
You had been asked, so outside the house was the area that you laid all the debris, correct?
Yes,
Your answer. Again, we didn't lay it out, so it was placed in a pile. The pile, in my recollection, would probably have been 3 or 4 feet by 6 or 8 feet and 7 feet high. But I don't have a great recollection of the size of the pile after we excavated, right?
correct.
Okay. So if somebody came after you, were there on the 8th, like somebody on the 15th a week later, we should see behind the house a picture of a 4 foot by 8 foot by 7 foot high pile of rubble.
I have no idea what the rubble pile would look like after I left.
Well, do you think somebody would have taken it and moved it?
No,
You
but it's
think-
possible.
You think somebody would have put it back in the house?
I have no idea.
The pile that you had, the rubble that you would have been removing, and I'm going to show you defendant's exhibit B. Show me this for your photos.
Your Honor, are we meaning all of his photos or just a selection of the photographs?
Select photos. 15 ones I gave you yesterday, counsel.
No, I understand that. Are they just
They are select photos, not every photo.
I respect that and I understand. Are they separated from a giant exhibit of other photographs or are they just?
They are in exhibit B by themselves. You tell me if those are your photos.
So you want him to review the entire binder right now?
No,
Oh,
they're just
okay.
15 photos.
Which 15 though?
Hold on, I want to make sure, is this exhibit B? I will, let's,
You know which ones to look at?
yes.
Okay.
These are the photos look like that have been previously entered into evidence by the prosecution.
Some are the same, some are different.
Looks like 47 under B is the same as defense 34-9. Would you like me to continue? Would you like me to continue through B on photos?
Please. All those photos you identified for the prosecutor, you had reviewed your photos before this trial, right?
Yes,
And you identified those easily as your photos, right?
correct,
And a lot of these are just duplicates of your photos.
but I'm going to make sure.
To determine that.
56 is the same photo as 3411 with the prosecution. 57 is one of my photos, but not with the prosecution exhibits. 58 is one of my photos. It's in the prosecution exhibit 3412. 59 is my photo that is the same as People's 3410. 61 looks to be the same as People's 3418. 62 is one of my photos that is not in the People's exhibit. 75 is the same as People's 3425. 96 is one of my photos and is similar to People's 3413. I think this might be a different photo of the same shot. 123 is the same as People's 3421. 138 is one of my photos, but not in the prosecution photos. And that finishes up B.
That's all. Move for the admission of Exhibit B 1 through 15?
Objection.
1 through, what'd you say, 15?
15.
1 through 15.
Thank you. So if we look at page, photograph 62 there, you can look up on the screen if you'd like. We can see that fireplace in the basement, right?
Yes.
Right here. So basically what we're showing is the living room area, and the living room extends out toward the bay window to the left.
No, this photo's taken from underneath the bay window.
Okay. You're saying the fireplace is directly across from the bay window. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Where you have the FP on
So
your drawing.
what I'm seeing then is entirely the living room.
Yes.
Now,
Or the basement under the living room.
the living room that had collapsed and had the 2 feet of rubble that you excavated and cleared, you and Mr. Stormzone.
Yes.
So, if somebody like Mr. Shinsky came and Mr. Shinsky took a photo a few days later, what we should see is a photo of the back of the house where you laid it out, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
And what we should see somewhere in here, in the back west side, is a pile 7 feet by 8 feet by 7 feet high, correct?
I do not see that there.
You certainly don't. You also didn't document the excavation, did you?
I did not take a photograph of the excavation once completed. That is a mistake that I have admitted to, and it's a mistake on my part.
Okay. You know the importance of documentation, correct?
Correct.
Important for corroboration, correct?
Okay, so
Okay.
It's important for corroboration, correct?
it is important to document the scene.
Because you want to have corroboration in case somebody asks you, did you actually do some excavation? You want to be able to show proof.
Correct.
That's called corroboration. True?
You can call it that.
Okay. You didn't take any photographs, right,
What do you mean didn't take any
of your
photographs?
excavation.
Yes,
You didn't write in your report, your official Michigan State Police report, anything about an excavation, correct?
I think there may have been a section, but without reviewing my report, I can't be sure.
Well, did you testify in a hearing that you didn't document it in your report?
I may have.
And if you testified in that hearing, that would have been under oath,
Correct.
and you had reviewed your file,
Correct.
and you reviewed your report,
Correct.
and you told us the truth when you told us you didn't put it in your report.
Correct.
You also didn't even take any notes during your whole scene inspection, did you?
What is your definition of notes?
Well, things like the jury was taking down to document you did what you did. Did you take any notes, yes or no?
I dictated the scene examination directly into the report on a reporter. For years, been doing this 20 years, I typically don't take copious written notes on scene examination.
Okay. We don't have anything contemporaneous in terms of any notes of yours of the excavation itself, fair?
There are no notes of the excavation.
Okay. Even though that's such a critical aspect of fire investigation.
The notes aren't critical. It's the information in the report that's critical.
The excavation is critical in a fire excavation, true?
Did you say an excavation is important in an excavation?
The excavation process in a fire investigation is critical, am I right?
Yes.
Because that's where you get the evidence that might show how the fire progressed.
That is a step that may develop evidence.
And that is a step where you collect data, it's called.
Yes.
And that data will help you find evidence that might point to the why, the cause.
Possibly.
You can't overlook doing an excavation when you're doing a fire investigation, right?
Depends on the fire investigation.
You testified that, correct me if I'm wrong, that the reason you didn't take any photographs, make any notes, is because it was a long day that day.
I never said anything about notes. I did testify that there's no photographs that should have been taken. I don't know why I didn't take it. It's possible. It was a long day, and because we didn't find anything notable significance in the excavation, it's possible I forgot to take the photograph.
Well,
Photographs of post-excavation.
let me see if you turn to D2 there.
We're talking transcripts again?
Your book of the transcripts,
D2, what is that?
last one, last tab.
So when you say D, you're referring to Dauber, correct?
You can read from page 42 to yourself, line 13 to 16.
Yes.
Okay. Does that refresh your memory that the reason you forgot to take a photograph or note your documentation was because it was a long day?
It does. Possible a long day.
You were tired
Yes.
after a long day.
Yes.
So you didn't document this critical aspect because you were tired because it was a long day. Yeah. Let me ask you something. If you've trained fire investigators, right?
I have.
Okay. If you had a rookie fire investigator you were training, would you accept such a poor excuse as, boss, I didn't do what I was supposed to do and take any pictures and notes because it was a long day. I was tired.
When you accept it, of course I would. Because if that's what happened, you're going to
Okay.
accept it.
Wouldn't you maybe ask that person, why didn't you go back the next day?
We're calling for speculation, Your Honor, Jackson.
This is thank you. You would
I
ask
don't know what
that.
I would say. Because it depends on the scene. Everything depends on the scene.
If he says that I didn't do it because it was a long day and I was tired, he's a rookie investigator,
Comment of Jack Jackson, answers, Your Honor.
you would ask him, why didn't you go back the next day?
Well, I'll allow this one.
Thank you. So,
I don't know what I would say.
okay. Is there a law that says you can only go and do a scene investigation one day?
No?
Is there any Michigan State Police policy that says you can do a scene investigation only once?
No.
Okay. And after you were the law enforcement person responsible for the scene in terms of the fire investigation, right?
In terms of the fire investigation.
So after January 8th, you didn't come back anymore.
I did not.
And you released the scene to people like Mr. Shinsky, right?
Correct?
And Len McHugh, do you know him?
Yes?
He was on the scene a couple days after you,
Yes?
right? Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about your origin and the bases for your origin opinion. You went through a whole lot of things about how you ruled out various areas in the house, right?
Correct.
And if we look at New York skyline, let me get back on here. If we look at your investigation, I'll get it back in a second. You did the physical investigation, all the physical evidence led you to the area of origin in the living room, correct?
All the data.
All the data. All the data, including what you said was very important information from Linda Stermer, correct?
Correct.
Linda Stermer told you that she was in the basement, am I right?
I've never talked to Linda Stermer.
You read a statement that Mr. Shinsky took an interview.
Yes.
Well, you relied on it, obviously.
Yes.
And she said she's in the basement doing laundry. Yes.
Correct?
She hears this horrible scream upstairs, right?
Correct?
She runs upstairs.
Correct?
She sees the living room on fire.
Correct?
She sees her husband on fire by the bedroom, you said, right?
Correct?
Okay. Have you ever burned yourself on a stove or anything in your life?
Yes.
Okay. That pain is immediate, isn't it?
Yes. But I'm not a medical expert. I can't testify to that.
You certainly can testify to your own experience that the pain was immediate to you, right?
Yes.
I'm not trying to be funny with you. Are we clear?
Yes,
Your
sir.
Honor, Jack, I don't think that's appropriate.
I'm not clear what that last dialogue was
He's
about.
smirking
Okay,
at
well,
me.
you're being argumentative, so move
So-
on, please.
You've had burns, and they were immediate, correct?
Correct?
And they were painful, correct?
Correct.
So, one of the things that NFPA cautioned you is if you have a hypothesis that violates the laws of physics, that's an invalid hypothesis, right?
I'm not aware of that section, but proceed.
Okay. One of the rules of physics, we talked about Newton's laws of motion.
Yes.
No objection, Your Honor. I think we're getting into areas that's not proper for trial at this point in time. It's laws of motion, this is physics, he's not a physics professor.
He's familiar with it, and we agreed.
I'll allow some.
Thank you.
But I assume
Sir.
there's some relevance where you're going.
One fundamental law is you can't be in two places at the same time, can you?
Correct?
So, if Linda Stermer is in the basement and she hears a scream and that burn injury is immediate, that means Todd Stermer caught fire and Linda was in a different room, correct?
Correct.
Now, let's talk about some of the fundamentals of being an expert witness. One of the purposes, or one of the things you have to do is obviously collect all the relevant data, correct?
Correct all the relative data that's available.
Relevant data
Relevant data that's available.
that is available to you. What's available to you are witness statements, right?
Yes?
You can interview witnesses, nothing stops you.
No?
You can go to building departments
Correct?
to get house records,
Correct?
right? Do a lot of things that aren't just physically at the inspection site,
Correct.
and that's all data gathering.
Correct.
You can agree with me that in your fire investigation, you have to comply with the scientific method, correct?
Correct.
And you describe that for us.
Correct.
So I'm going to show you what is proposed. Exhibit D. Have you seen this before?
Yes.
It's in your NFPA 921 book,
Correct.
and it's what you follow,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
And that's what you used in this case,
Correct.
and this is what you followed in this case, correct?
Correct.
And this would illustrate the steps for the jury, correct?
Correct.
All right, I move for the admission of Exhibit D.
Object is relevance, Your Honor. It's also, I don't see why it's relevant to put this, can we not display it to the jury until the court submitted it?
I'll look at it. I think it's relevant. I think a foundation's been
Obviously, the first
What is your marking on that? What is it?
Exhibit D.
D?
Obviously, you said the first two steps are kind of the same in everything you do, every assignment. Find the origin and cause of the fire.
Correct.
So the real work starts when we're talking about collecting data, correct?
Correct.
When we collect data, you gather all the relevant evidence that you can to try to help you come to a conclusion, right?
Correct.
The next step is you analyze all the data that you've collected, correct?
Correct.
Then once you've analyzed that data, then you develop a hypothesis based on, here's the evidence I have, could it be this?
Correct.
Then you test the hypothesis, right,
Correct.
to disprove the hypothesis, correct?
To prove or disprove, both.
You're telling our jury that it's to prove it or disprove it.
When you're testing hypothesis, yes. To try to disprove it, yes.
If you can't rule it out, can't rule out a hypothesis, then you have to collect more data or develop another hypothesis, right?
Say that again.
If you can't rule out a hypothesis based on the data, then you either have to get more data or develop a new hypothesis. Isn't that what NFPA 921 tells you?
Or, so you've jumped down to testing the hypothesis, correct?
We're on testing hypothesis.
Okay. So you're testing the hypothesis to see not just if it's ruled out, but also if it's ruled in. You're testing it to see if it is, if the hypothesis is ruled out, then it's not a valid hypothesis.
It's an invalid hypothesis
Correct.
because you're able to rule it out from the
From the data,
data.
correct.
And in this case, if the hypothesis was Linda Stermer was with Todd Stermer and somehow got gasoline on him, you're able to rule that out with the data, reliable data that you had that she was in the basement.
That was never a hypothesis of mine.
I'm asking, you're an expert witness. If the hypothesis is that Linda Stermer somehow did something with gasoline that caused Todd to be on fire,
Your Honor, I'm going to object. Can we vote, please?
so you're an expert witness. You're an expert in fire investigation. You develop hypotheses, right?
Correct.
And you measure it against the reliable data, correct?
Correct.
The reliable data you had, as we talked about, was Linda was in the basement at the time she heard Todd yell,
Correct.
assuming he's on fire, correct?
He's yelling and a fire is discovered on him.
Okay. If the hypothesis is Linda was with Todd Stermer and somehow got gasoline on him, that's ruled out by your reliable data that she was in the basement.
That specific hypothesis, correct.
And there's other data that would suggest that Linda didn't have anything to do with any gasoline, isn't there?
I'm not aware of that hypothesis.
Well, how about Linda's clothes tested negative for gasoline?
Well, do you want me to?
Are you aware of that?
I am, and I'm aware of other data
I want you
also.
to just want you to answer my questions. You're aware that Linda's clothes tested negative for gasoline, correct?
That is true.
You are aware that the Michigan State Police brought a canine in, and the canine did not.
I'm going to object. That's for hearsay, Your Honor. It's not evidence.
He's relied on that collection of data, and including canine evidence. It's in his report.
Now we're talking 703, just like we've been dealing with all over this. That facts are not evidence.
I'll sustain that objection.
Okay. You rely on all kinds of data when you're developing your hypotheses, right?
Correct.
One of the pieces of data that you rely on is testing.
Lab testing,
Lab
correct.
testing. And you also rely on things like Michigan State Police canine experts being called to the scene. True?
Well, I guess we're dancing around the subject again here. I'm going to object as relevance.
Relevance. It goes directly to the issue of
I've
relevance.
already sustained the objection, Mr. Mueller. We can move on.
Were you present when there was a canine?
Objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Mueller, I've sustained the objection.
Okay. Are you aware, well, you were aware of the gray sweatpants, right?
Mr. Stermer's gray sweatpants?
Yes. You collected it.
Yes.
Right. Are you aware that they were 100% polyester?
I was not aware.
Data you could have collected.
It is possible.
Have you, in your past experience, tested the flammability of materials?
I'm going to object. I don't think he's an expert in textiles, Your Honor.
I'm just asking for his experience.
I think it's fair and within the range of his expertise. I'll overrule.
Go ahead.
I have not tested, I do not recall testing flammability of polyester.
You've tested materials.
I have not tested materials.
Are you aware of what polyester is?
It's a synthetic material.
Synthetic material made of plastics.
Plastic polymers, correct.
Okay. And you understand that it doesn't just burn, it melts.
It can burn and melt at the same time.
Okay. So we talked about collecting relevant data. Then we also have, as one of the main aspects of being a expert witness and an expert in general, is you have to keep kind of like an open book policy of document all your investigative techniques, correct?
I don't understand what you're asking.
You told us about the importance of documentation.
Correct.
And the importance of documentation is so others can review your work.
Correct.
And then you can defend your work if people are criticizing it.
That's a portion of documentation, yes.
Portion of documentation is your peers are going to review it, right?
Yes,
Your colleagues.
possibly.
And if you've said there was an intentional fire and you think it's arson and there becomes a criminal case, well, the defendant's expert needs to look at it as well.
I never called it arson, I call it incendiary.
Listen to me carefully. If you call something arson and it results in a
I'm going to object. We've established that is a legal conclusion, and we should not be talking about that in this case.
I agree. I'll sustain that objection.
Okay. If your opinions result in a criminal charge, the suspect or the defendant has a right to look at your stuff,
Correct?
and it needs to be complete.
They can look at all of my material.
And it needs to be complete and thorough.
They can look at all my material as is.
So they can compare what you're saying you did to what you did by your
Correct.
documents. Corroboration again, right?
Okay? Correct.
So we don't just have to take your word for it, right?
Correct.
And then finally, you have to kind of make a good faith effort, play devil's advocate with yourself, right?
Correct.
How could I be wrong, right?
Correct.
Did I miss something?
Correct.
And you did all that in this case
Yes.
to rule out all the things that you ruled out.
To rule out as many of the things that I could think of and that I had indications of.
Now let's talk about one thing here. This 921 book is the primary training guide for all fire investigations, correct?
It is the main text for training.
It is the main text that you've trained to, fair?
Yes.
It is the text that they test on when you've tested for certifications, right?
Correct.
So you've trained up to this 921, you've tested this 921, and when you've taught young firefighters or fire investigators, you teach out of this book, correct?
That is one of the books.
One of the books. There are others.
There are others.
There are kind of authoritative reference guides.
Yes.
One might be the user's manual for 921.
That may be one.
One might be Kirk's fire investigation. We've seen that.
Yes.
You have that.
I don't know if I have the newest copy, but I have a copy.
You have a copy. John Lentini's book, Scientific Protocols for Fire Investigation. That's a reference guide.
That is a reference guide.
Have you used it?
I can't think if I have.
Do you own it?
I do not own that one.
All these are resources for you to go to if you have questions regarding your field, right?
Correct.
And then, of course, I think the main guide for you would be a code of ethics, right? And how you do your work.
There's a personal code of ethics of, yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what we've marked as proposed Exhibit L, see if you recognize that. And you can tell us what it is.
This is a quote from the IAAI Code of Ethics that is no longer valid because there's been an update.
An update. You believe it to your core, don't you?
What?
You believe this statement to your core, don't you?
The outdated statement?
Yes.
No, yeah, I think he just establishes an outdated statement.
It's what,
Well, that's if it's outdated.
because it goes to his code of ethics that he believes in. Whether it's outdated or not, he still believes
Maybe
in
you
the
can inquire
statement.
of him how it's outdated, in what way, what's different.
Do you know why it's different now?
Yes, the IAAI committee met and updated the Code of Ethics in 2020.
Okay.
I have a copy if you'd like.
Do you believe in the principle, I'm just going to ask you, do you believe in the principle that you should be a truth seeker and not a case maker?
Yes.
You believe that to your core?
I don't use those with core, but yes, I believe it.
Let's go to your D1 hearing at page 66. Let me know when you're there.
Say 56, 5?
66.
66.
There?
Yes. D1, Daubert 1, page 66.
66. And we, from line 1 to 9,
Your Honor, I'm going to object because this questioning is based on the outdated statement.
that he said he believes in, Your Honor. I'm asking if he believes in a principle. It's simple.
He's basing it on prior testimony, so I'll allow it.
Go ahead.
Which lines you want to review again?
1 through 11.
Yes. Yes. On line 9, my answer to that same question is I believe it to my core.
Correct. And what that means is, being a truth seeker, is you are not here to just get a conviction, right?
I am not here just to get a conviction.
You're here to offer, you're supposed to offer your objective opinion.
I am here.
Supposed to offer opinions. Any other questions?
Argumentative, Mr. Mueller.
Pardon?
It's argumentative.
You are here to offer your objective opinion.
I am.
Okay. Which means you'll be opening new evidence if you hear it.
I would listen to all relative evidence.
Okay. And be open to new evidence and change your mind if it drives you that way, right?
If it was properly produced and researched.
Okay. Now, can we agree that if you don't collect the data, you're violating the scientific method?
Available data.
If you don't collect all available data, you're violating scientific method.
And I'm going to go with that's relevant data. Clearly, there's an infinite amount of data out there, so it needs to be relevant data.
Well, you can't determine what's relevant until you collect the data. Then you decide. That's part of the analyzing, right? This is important, that's important.
But there's a portion of common sense of data collection.
Isn't it true that if you don't collect all the relevant data, you're violating scientific method?
You just asked and answered, Mr. Mueller.
I think it was a simple yes or no question.
Your Honor, again,
I think he's answered it already.
If you don't analyze the data, you violate the scientific method, yes or no? We're on analyzing data, the next step.
It's a little different, but you can ask one more time.
Yes or no?
Correct. You must analyze the data.
If you don't develop hypotheses based on analyzing the data, you violated the scientific method, correct?
You must develop hypotheses or theories.
If you don't, then you violated the scientific method.
Correct.
And if you don't test those hypotheses, you're violating the scientific method.
Correct.
And if you fail to consider alternate hypotheses, you violate the scientific method.
Reliable alternative hypothesis.
Then you violate the scientific method.
Correct.
If you violate the scientific method, you have an unreliable methodology, don't you?
Correct.
Which means unreliable can't be relied upon, correct?
Correct.
To rely, to have confidence in, to trust, right?
Correct.
And if you don't have a reliable methodology, then you don't have a reliable opinion, do you? I haven't even asked it.
Yeah, it is asked and answered. I'll have to move on.
I've not asked that question ever.
Okay, one more time.
Thank you.
One more.
If you don't have a reliable methodology, you don't have a reliable opinion, do you?
Correct.
Okay. You've heard of the phrase garbage in equals garbage out?
I have heard that.
All right. Let's go to your cause opinion. Are you comfortable that you've explained the cause of the fire to this jury?
Yes.
You wouldn't change it, would you?
No.
You know, and as I remember from my notes, the cause of the fire was the ignition source was an open flame,
Correct?
and then the first fuel ignited was gasoline.
Gasoline vapors.
Okay. And that's the cause of the fire,
Correct.
which is why you then classified it as intentional,
Incendiary, yes.
incendiary. Give me a second, Your Honor. Let's go to NFPA 921. NFPA 921 speaks to cause, doesn't it? The causal factors.
Yes.
I'm curious what this is going to be before the jury sees this, because I'm not sure what we're looking at.
I'll show you, and this is not an exhibit, Your Honor, it's for impeachment and learned treatise.
Well, then he can impeach him with it, but it can't be displayed to the jury. It's not an
And
exhibit.
I can read it or show it to the jury. It just doesn't go back to the jury room as an exhibit.
I'll allow it for demonstrative, for cause, but it won't go back to the jury.
Right. Sir, you recognize those causal factors?
Yes.
NFPA 921, the premier guide for your training, lists what has to be found and determined for the cause, correct?
Correct.
The ignition source, the first fuel ignited, let me read that, and the circumstances that brought 1 and 2 together.
Correct.
Unless you have all 3, you don't have a cause of a fire, correct?
Correct.
Which means unless you have all 3, you don't have the why. Isn't that true?
The why of the cause of the fire? Is that,
Yes, that is the why.
correct.
Okay. Let's go to 19.4.4.1. I'm happy to give you the book if you have it.
I do. Yes, 19.4.4.1.
Let me know when you're there.
Yes.
It says simply identifying a fuel or an ignition source by itself does not and cannot describe how a fire occurred. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, that's an excerpt from that section.
That's what that says, right?
Correct?
So, what it's saying is, if we have 1 and 2 but not 3, we don't have the cause of a fire, correct?
Correct.
You've given 1 and 2 to the jury. You're comfortable with that conclusion. You didn't give 3 to the jury. You don't know the circumstances that brought that open flame to the gasoline in this 20 by 20 living room, do you?
I don't, but there's an exception in 921 that allows for that.
You don't have all 3 factors for the cause of a fire, fair?
I do have all 3 factors.
You have the circumstances. You haven't given the jury the circumstances that brought the open flame and the gasoline together. The how. True?
That has not been discussed with the jury.
Okay. That was never discussed in your report, correct?
My report from 2007, it was
Yes,
not.
the official Michigan State Police fire report of this case.
The language has changed since 2007 with these specific monikers?
Oh, you updated your report?
No, I did not.
Okay, in your report, you never listed even an open flame. We can go to your report.
I did not list an open flame.
So you did not list gasoline, or strike that. You did not list first fuel being gasoline,
I did not.
and you certainly didn't list in your official report the circumstances that brought those 2 together. Fair?
I did not.
Then you've testified on several occasions, right? In this case.
Correct.
Testified in 09, didn't you?
09, that would have been the first trial? Correct.
Your Honor, can we approach? You testified, excuse me, in a prior hearing in 2009, and you laid out what you said was the cause of the fire, right?
Yes.
And you didn't mention one time an ignition source being open flame.
I can't remember what my testimony was on that.
No. Let's look at what's called PE. PE in your binder,
I've got multiple. This binder?
transcript binder.
See one that says PE on it?
The 09, correct?
Called PE. I think.
It doesn't say P.
Oh, sorry.
But it's it says 09. All right.
Direct your attention to page 49.
Yes.
You listed as the cause of the fire time of day, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Time of day, condition of the known people in the house, which means basically able-bodied people.
Correct.
And you said the fire started very rapidly, larger and more rapidly than an accident fire could have started.
Correct.
And then you tied it in with gasoline on Mr. Stermer's sweatpants, right?
Correct.
Which then caused you to say it's an intentional fire.
Correct.
Right. So when you testified that didn't lay out the circumstances that brought anything together, correct?
Correct. But there's still an
And then-
exception.
You can clear that up. You did not mention any of the circumstances, fair?
Correct.
Okay. Then you testified in 2010 and went through the same thing and never mentioned an ignition source of open flame, correct?
Correct.
Never mentioned,
I don't know. I don't recall my testimony verbatim from 2010.
okay. Do you recall that the first time when I asked you, the first time you testified to an open flame and gasoline as an ignition, first fuel ignited, was in our hearing in 2021?
I recall that testimony. That being discussing the testimony, I don't recall if that was the first time that was mentioned.
In fact, to this date, in 18 years, you've never set forth in a report or testimony the circumstances that brought forth your open flame gasoline, correct?
I think I just did it today in testimony.
Didn't you just tell us you did 1 and 2, but not 3?
No, that I haven't explained. There's an exception for the 3 with the 1 and 2 being brought together.
You did not, in any direct testimony, set forth the circumstances that brought 1 and 2 together.
Objection, that's the answer.
He keeps disputing that he did.
Because you won't let him answer the question, Your Honor.
It's asked and answered.
Thank you. Now, in terms of, you certainly know the difference as to what a causal factor is in terms of ignition source, correct?
Causal factor? Yes.
That's ignition source and first fuel.
Correct.
And you've been under oath saying that the time of day was a causal factor, correct?
I've never used the word causal factor.
It was a cause of the fire.
No, it was a circumstance of the fire.
Is there anywhere in NFPA 921 that says time of day is a cause of the fire?
No.
There's no reference manual anywhere that you've been trained on that says time of day is a cause of the fire.
No.
Am I right?
Correct.
There's no authority that you've ever heard of that says time of day is a cause of the fire.
Correct.
Accidental fires happen all the time in the daytime, right?
Correct.
Then the next thing you had, and we can talk about that PE again at page 49, was 2 able-bodied people.
Correct.
Is there anything in NFPA 921, this principal guide, if this there is, I'd like you to cite it for our jury and any peers who are watching, anything that says the condition of people are a cause of the fire?
It does not.
No authoritative guide, no somebody you look and respect has ever told you that, correct?
Correct.
You've never taught that, correct?
Correct.
You've never been tested where that was an answer as a cause of a fire. 2 able-bodied people,
No.
am I right?
Correct.
Able-bodied people die in fires all the time, unfortunately.
Correct.
Just like disabled people like you told us, right?
Correct.
You didn't mention that you've investigated many fires involving able-bodied people who were seriously injured or died, fair?
That is correct.
And then, of course, another factor you said in that preliminary hearing was the speed of the fire, correct?
Correct.
Now, you know, sir, from all your training and expertise, that how fast a fire progresses is based on a lot of different factors, right?
Correct.
One of the factors is the construction of the house.
That is one.
Because that depends on the fuel loads, right? That,
More than just fuel loads. Depends on fuel loads, container size, room size, configuration.
fire will spread faster if you have more ventilation. It takes oxygen to feed a fire.
Correct.
So it's not simply a fire was fast and therefore it had to be an accelerant. Fair?
That is fair.
And certainly you can't rely on eyewitness testimony, the subjective testimony of who was burning fast.
Not by itself, no. You were aware that when some of the first witnesses showed up, that they saw a fire coming through the roof on the north side of, not the north side of the house, on the back side of the house, The west side, yes.
west side? Well, we don't have it here, right?
Correct.
By where the bay windows were?
It was, yeah, there were some statements of through the roof in the center of the house.
By furnace.
Your Honor, I guess that we take some of these demonstrative exhibits down if they're not going to be used anymore.
Are you done with that one? It's on the screen. Is this something new coming out?
No, this is, I can see what this is. This is fine.
Mr. Mueller, if you could give
I'm
us
gonna-
the New York skyline, please.
I'll just go black, how about that? Early witnesses said that the fire was coming out of the roof on the backside and toward the middle,
Correct.
which one of the things you relied on,
Correct?
right? And the fireplace would have been here and toward the center,
Correct?
right? Just, so it says FP, right, fireplace?
Correct.
You would have to collect data in terms of maybe how the house was constructed to have a better idea of analyzing that data and developing a hypothesis that why the fire you say was so fast.
Data was collected through observations.
Okay. There was other available data, correct?
There may have been.
And you had access to that available data like building records, correct?
I assume I would have availability to building records. I did not look at any.
You chose not to.
I did not look at any.
You could have talked to Linda Stermer.
I could have.
You chose not to.
I did not.
That would have been obviously a very valuable source of data in terms of how the fire was, or the house was constructed.
Your Honor, can we approach really quickly because I want to be very mindful of what issue we're talking about here.
Sir, were you, excuse me, were you aware that the entire living room floor was nothing but OSB subflooring?
I became aware. I can't tell you when.
Not as of January 12 when you issued your report, correct?
I don't believe so.
Okay, let's get a timeline. January 7, the fire starts, or fire happens, right?
Correct?
January 7, you're on the scene,
Correct?
take a couple pictures, and pictures of the body you showed, and also pictures of the house.
Correct?
You took 46 pictures, would that be correct?
I don't know how many I took.
If I tell you you took 46 that night,
That sounds about right.
and then you took a total of 138, so you took from 47 to 138 the next day.
I took several pictures the next day.
Okay. And then, that was the 8th, and then the 12th, you learned the MSP results on the gasoline on the sweatpants.
That's
Yes?
correct.
And then you issued a report shortly after that.
Correct.
Okay. And the key, obviously, was the gasoline on sweatpants.
That was an important piece of data.
Well, that was the thing that lynched it for you, didn't it?
That was an important piece of data.
You know what a keystone is? Ever seen a keystone in an arch?
I'm aware of Keystone architecturally, yes.
It's architecturally, and the keystone is the piece at the top, the single
Correct.
piece that holds the arch together.
Correct?
And then if it's removed, the whole arch falls.
Correct?
That was the keystone, wasn't it, for your opinion?
That's
Gasoline.
an argumentative
Thank you.
I would never use the word keystone. It was an important piece of data.
Let's get back to the construction of the house. You didn't know the floor was nothing but OSB with some rugs on it, right?
I did not.
You didn't know there was exposed 2x4s around the framing, especially around the whole bay window area?
At the time of the investigation, I did not.
You didn't know there was a lot of other exposed wood?
Your Honor, can we take that?
Oh, sorry. Didn't even know I was doing it. You didn't know there was a lot of exposed wood, uncovered, not drywalled, in that first floor, correct?
I did not.
And that certainly would add to the ability of a fire to spread, correct?
It would.
Because as you know, if it's a lot of drywall doesn't burn, right?
Correct.
Were you aware, sir, as you were trying to rule out these hypotheses, that there was no final electrical inspection?
I was not aware.
Were you aware that there was no final mechanical inspection?
I was not.
Were you aware that the house didn't even have a certificate of final occupancy?
I did not.
That'd be important data to know, right? In terms of evaluating electrical sources, mechanical, that kind of thing.
I did not have those information.
Pardon?
I did not have that information.
Now, you said you ruled out electrical as being a possible cause of the fire, right?
Correct.
Electrical fires happen all the time in this country, don't they?
Correct.
And they can happen behind the walls, right?
Yes.
And all of a sudden you have a sudden fire you didn't even know, right?
They happen in the walls.
Okay. You do not have expertise in electrical house wiring, do you?
I'm not a licensed electrician.
You are not an expert in the electrical wiring of a house, are you?
I am not.
I think it's been asked and answered, Your Honor.
You didn't?
It's a little different, but I'll allow it.
Go ahead.
I'm not.
Okay. And on September or January 8th, you didn't hire somebody to help you with the electrical examination, did
Your
you?
Honor, he approached.
You ever heard of the phrase, know what you don't know?
Yes.
Smart to know what you don't know and stay in your lane. You ever heard of that phrase?
Correct. Yes, I've heard it.
No. You don't have evidence, physical evidence of any ignition source, do you?
Physical evidence? No, there's no physical evidence of an ignition source. Well,
And you-
there is physical evidence of a potential ignition source. That's the fireplace
And candles,
and candles.
which you would have to rule out according to the scientific method
Correct.
by collecting data.
Correct.
You didn't collect data about the candles in your inspection, did you?
I did. The data for the candles were statements about the candles,
That they were,
that they existed.
okay, they were open flames.
Correct.
And one open flame with candles, right?
Correct.
One open flame with a fuel lamp, correct?
I don't know.
You don't remember that?
I don't know the fuel lamp.
Okay. And one open flame was a fireplace.
Correct.
You don't know which of those open flames were involved in this fire, do you?
I don't know of which open flame is involved in ignition,
Or any of them?
or any of them.
Okay. And you certainly don't know, well, let's talk about the gasoline on the pants. The gasoline on the sweatpants that tested positive, you said was a very, very important part of your conclusion.
I don't think I used that many varies. I think I just said important.
Okay.
Or,
Very important. Yes?
yes.
Okay. In fact, sir, you have no opinion on how long the gasoline had been on his sweatpants. Is that true?
That is correct.
Because you don't know where he was when he got gasoline on.
Correct.
You don't know when it happened in terms of what day.
I do not know when the gasoline got on the pants.
You don't know how it got there.
I do not know how the gasoline got on his pants.
You don't know how much gasoline was on his pants.
I do not know the exact amount of gasoline that went on his pants.
And you have no opinion as to how long it was on his pants, correct?
I have no opinion how long it was on his pants.
Therefore, you cannot rule out the logical possibility that it has nothing to do with this fire.
No.
Am I right?
No, you're not.
All right, let's back up. If you don't know how long the gasoline was on the pants, you don't know if he had gotten it on the pants a week before.
I know that the gasoline was on the pants.
100%.
At that
You know
time, I
that.
do not know when the gasoline got on his pants.
We don't know the last time the sweatpants were washed.
I'm sorry?
We don't know the last time the sweatpants were washed.
We do not.
But what you're doing is extrapolating, just saying he had gasoline on sweatpants, therefore gasoline must have been in the living room.
Because he was in the living room
Okay.
and near the area of origin.
Do you have any explanation for why his sweatpants didn't catch fire if they had gasoline on them?
They may have been covered, like a blanket or something may have been over them. They may have been something pushed together so there's not oxygen. Do I know exactly why? No, I don't.
Okay, when you're saying they may have, you're speculating.
I'm offering a speculative opinion.
Okay. And as an expert witness, do you think offering a speculative opinion is appropriate?
It is an informative statement. I do not know. Go ahead.
Would you agree that experts should not speculate or guess?
Opinions should come from a body of knowledge.
A body of scientific knowledge based on the scientific method, right?
Body of knowledge.
And as we agreed, garbage in equals garbage out, right?
Correct.
So if you are offering speculation as an opinion, what you're doing is misleading the jury, aren't you?
Sustained.
If you're offering speculation as an opinion, you're violating that.
It's asked and answered. It's asked and answered.
It's a different question.
I think it's asked and answered.
Let's talk about that red gas can in the front yard. One thing, let's go back. One thing that, in relying on Linda Stermer's statement, that she was in the basement, she came upstairs, all of a sudden she saw the fire, right?
Correct.
Then she ran out of the house, right?
Correct.
And all the information you had that she was running around hysterical, correct?
Judge, next time, then, see if testify to that, Your Honor.
Did you learn that from your,
Yeah, allow it with the foundation.
thank you. Did you read Mr. Shinsky's statement of Linda Stermer?
Yes.
Okay, did you read anything about what the witnesses said?
Correct. Yes, I did.
And they were describing her as hysterical, right?
There were some descriptions of that. Yes.
Okay. So, given that information, you can't rule out the possibility that Linda Stermer was surprised by the fire when she saw it.
Objection, cause for speculation.
Fair? Based on the evidence he has.
Well, Your Honor, he's asking you to rule out Linda Stermer's surprise. How is he supposed to know how she reacted? He wasn't there.
I agree. It's cause for speculation. I'll sustain.
Okay. Let's talk about that red gas can that you picked up in the front yard. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. You actually saw it the night before, didn't you?
I photographed, it was in a photograph the night before. I do not have an individual recollection if I took specific notice of it on the 7th.
If you thought it was important, you would have picked it up that night.
I don't know.
Well, you certainly know that in a potential crime scene, evidence can disappear, right?
Yes.
And as you testified earlier, you thought this might be a crime scene when you saw blood on the front bumper of the car, correct?
Correct.
That's why you took pictures, correct?
Correct.
And then, after that, you saw the gas can, but you didn't even pick it up.
I don't know if I saw the gas can or took notice of the gas can the evening of the 7th.
The next day, you picked it up, correct?
Correct.
Detective Rout, is she the one who pointed it out to you? Or she took a picture of it too?
I don't know if Detective Rao pointed it out to me or not.
Certainly possible that you wouldn't have even noticed it or thought of it important on the 8th.
I don't know what that question is.
You don't know how the gas can got there, correct?
I do not.
You don't know where the gas can was before it got there.
Correct.
You don't know who put it there.
Correct.
In fact, if I look at your photograph 116 in your package from B, that's the gas can in the front yard, the picture you took, correct? Yellow stickers in the bottom right.
Yeah, what?
116.
116. There is no 116 in here.
It would be then in your, well, the picture here, you remember taking that picture?
I do remember the picture.
Remember looking at that picture in direct exam?
Yes,
Okay, it shows the gas can.
it does.
Do you recall taking a picture, a more close-up picture?
Yes.
And if we see this picture, close-up, see the gas can, it's all dirty and muddy,
I do.
and the spout is all muddy,
Correct.
and the
And
rest of the spout is broken. The rest of the spout is to the left.
correct.
As you sit here, sir, you have no idea if that gas can, 1 gallon gas can, has any connection to this fire, do you?
I do not.
Because to suggest that would be pure speculation on your part, correct?
Correct.
That would be intellectually dishonest if you suggested it, correct?
Correct.
In fact, if anybody suggested that a gas can had anything to do with this case, that would be misleading the jury, wouldn't it?
Sustain that objection, and it calls for speculation.
Give me 1 second here, Your Honor, I might be wrapping up. Oh. In order to arrive at your opinion that gasoline on the sweatpants means that it was there at the time of the fire, you're with me?
Correct.
You'd have to rule out that when any time period between the time of the fire and when you got there 3 hours later, gasoline could have transferred then, right?
There was no evidence of that.
Okay, let's work through that real quick. Todd Stermer was found outside the house by neighbors, right?
Correct.
Neighbors, Matheny in particular, throws clothes on him, correct?
At some point, yes.
You finally learned later that it was Mr. Matheny's coat that had the gasoline, that tested positive for gasoline too, correct?
Later, I did learn that that was Mr. Matheny's coat that was sent to the lab.
You thought it was Todd Stermer's coat, but somebody mislabeled it, fair?
Somebody mislabeled it. I don't know if it was me or somebody mislabeled it.
Okay. So, you'd have to rule out the fact that maybe there was transfer of the gas from Matheny's coat to the sweatpants.
There was no indications of.
You would have to rule that out. That's a plausible theory.
Correct.
And that's why you do the whole scientific method.
Correct.
Then they transferred him in this dinghy boat called the John boat. Somebody describe it.
Yes.
And they transferred him to where he was finally found, and workers worked on him, right?
Correct.
You would have to rule out that plausible scenario that maybe there was gasoline in that boat.
That was not a very plausible theory, but yes.
Okay. Even though you may not believe it, you still, as a scientific person, have to rule that out through the scientific method. True?
Correct.
Okay. So, and certainly, you know what expectation and confirmation bias is, right?
Yes.
NFPA cautions against that, correct?
Correct.
We talked about that, those as being a big no-no, right?
Have we
Yes.
previously? Is that what you're
June?
saying? Yes.
Big no-no, expectation bias is having an idea of what you think happened and then disregarding or ignoring evidence that doesn't fit, right?
Correct. It's not looking at all the data.
Confirmation bias is the flip side of the coin. Once you've arrived at a decision or an opinion, you ignore contradictory data, right?
Correct.
Both violate the scientific method, don't they?
Correct.
Because if you do receive new evidence, you have to then reevaluate. True?
Correct.
That's the proper way to do it.
Correct.
So, we have had testimony now that, and you smelled gasoline 3 hours later on Todd Stermer, right?
Correct.
Which led you to take the sweatpants.
Yes.
We've had testimony from 3 witnesses, Mike McCraney, Connie Calhoun.
I'm going to be objecting, Your Honor. I don't think he's aware of this testimony. He wasn't present in court to hear the testimony.
It's still something of a question, Your Honor.
Maybe just do it more as a hypothetical.
Hypothetically, if 3 witnesses who were there, the first 3 people on scene, said they didn't smell gasoline on Todd Stermer, you'd have to consider that, correct?
I wouldn't know what other people smelled or what they detected.
Have you told me in the past that you can't really consider that because sometimes people's memory are crazy when it's a stressful situation?
Oh, I never said the word crazy.
Not crazy. It just was a chaotic situation, right?
Yes.
And when people are in chaotic situations, you've said that their memories aren't so good.
I don't recall saying that.
Have you been trained as a Michigan State police detective or trooper detective on how to handle stressful situations?
I've had a lot of training. I don't know if anything specific on stressful situations.
Well, you do shoot training, don't you? Or didn't you?
I did.
So you can handle, if there's a shootout, handle the stressful situation, right?
Well, that's 2 different things when you're asking about handling stressful situations versus firearms training. That's two different things.
Okay. Have you had training, sir, to teach you how to deal with shootouts?
Objection has to answer, Your Honor.
Relevance?
Dances around the
Relevance.
question. Relevance?
What's
It goes to how a trained professional might act in a chaotic situation versus a lay person.
Overrule it, I don't find it relevant.
You know, overrule the
Sorry,
objection.
sustain the objection.
Even though you didn't necessarily believe that the boat could have transferred gasoline, there could have been gasoline in the boat that transferred to a sweat. You remember that?
Yes.
You still have to. You just told us you still have to analyze that as a plausible.
Your Honor, this can ask an answer.
I don't remember this question,
Right.
so I'll allow it.
You don't have to, or you still have to analyze it via the scientific method, correct?
Consider the data.
Right. And which means you got to collect data
Collect data.
about the boat,
Correct.
so you can analyze it,
Correct.
so you can develop a hypothesis,
Correct.
so you can test.
Testing the hypothesis
Right.
and the analyzation of the data collected.
Okay. Did you take a rag and wipe anything on the boat?
I did not.
Okay, that would be data, right?
That would be a form of data.
Did you get any witness statement from Linda Stermer or her children about anything about gasoline in the boat?
I have seen statements from her children.
I'm talking about, you took a statement, yeah, you heard a statement from Linda Stermer, you read it.
Correct.
I'm talking about before January 12th, when you wrote your report.
I don't know what information was relayed to me by other detectives about, I don't know, I forget the question, about comments from the family? Is that what the question was?
About the boat, specifically about the boat.
I didn't, the only information I was told is the boat was used to transport Todd from near the house to his final location.
Okay. And you did not collect any data from any individuals about whether there was gasoline in the boat, correct? He said he mentioned Linda Stermer. I'm just asking if anybody else.
Ask about the boys again. Can't remember. I think you asked about the boys as well?
He did.
Okay. You can ask that again, because I can't recall his answer.
Sir, you did not collect any data regarding the possibility of gasoline in the boat, correct? I asked about various
Sounds
sources.
like a
I'm
good
wrapping it up right
winding
now.
up question,
I'm
Mr.
wrapping
Miller,
it
so
up.
assuming it's a wind-up question, I'll allow it.
Thank you. True?
I did not.
Okay. Which means you can't analyze it, correct? You can't.
This is, it's really cumulative at this point, Mr. Mueller, so
Just-
either move on or sit down.
If you didn't collect the evidence, you violated the scientific method with respect to that hypothesis, didn't you?
I've collected data from statements of people about the boat,
Before January 12th.
not before January 12th.
Okay, and it's not in your report,
This is not in my report.
and it's never been in part of testimony, have it?
I don't recall if it's part of testimony.
And you didn't tell us about it this morning, did you?
No.
Give me 1 second to wrap up. Leroy, let me just kind of wrap up and summarize what we talked about. You didn't take photographs of your excavation, right?
Objection, Your Honor. These have all been asked
I'm
and
just
answered. You don't
wrapping it up.
Asked and answered.
Do you believe, based on everything you did, that you properly documented your investigation?
Yes.
Do you believe that everything you did, you complied with all the mandates of the scientific method?
Yes.
And NFPA 921, everything they say to do and don't do?
Yes.
No more questions, Your Honor. Give me a second for my housekeeping.
And then, counsel, you moved to admit just the one, the rest were demonstrative, correct?
I move to admit.
He's the scientific method one. That was D?
And A and B, his photographs.
Okay, so we got the whole girls. We thought we heard an L.
L was previously admitted.
Oh, okay. Is that your understanding, Mr. Blair? So
Yeah,
the-
that sounds about right.
Just
Is what we've gone through, Your Honor.
The scientific method one will admit, the others are demonstrative, other than the photos that were already admitted. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sir, would you agree with me that as fire consumes fuel, it reduces the mass of that fuel?
Yes.
And so something that may have been this big, 3 or 4 feet, whatever, catches on fire, it may be reduced to something much smaller than that. Clarifying question.
I will allow for clarification.
Yes.
You were asked, I believe, some questions by Mr. Mueller about a fire starting in a room, as we've described here in court, I guess, with Ms. Stermer being downstairs and Todd being up in the living room. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Is there a conceivable way that a person could be, well, let me rephrase the question. How does that, or is it conceivable that a fire could start in one room and somebody be in another room, but that person in the other room be responsible for pouring an accelerant or something like that in a room and catching fire?
Sorry. Objection, Your Honor. Talking speculating about possibilities. He's an expert. We talk about probabilities.
Direct response to his line of questioning, Your Honor.
I'll overrule the objection that's responsive to the cross-examination.
Yes, it is possible to pour a flammable liquid like gasoline in one room, and then as the vapor from that gasoline will spread and could potentially find an ignition source. Without, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So if there is an open flame in a room, such as a fireplace, and a person dumps gasoline in that room and then runs out and leaves, it is still conceivable that room could still catch fire.
Yes.
And Mr. Mueller, in fact, brought up Ms. Stermer's statement that she was downstairs in the laundry room doing laundry. Do you recall that?
Yes.
That also works on a presumption that Ms. Stermer is telling us the truth about her location in the house. Is that correct?
Now he's asking for credibility determination. Well, he already determined her to be credible. Never mind.
Is he
So
testifying?
you're withdrawing your objection?
I withdraw it.
Okay.
Ask that again.
Sure. We're working on certain presumptions here that the statement provided by Ms. Stermer is an accurate depiction of what happened on January 7th, 2007.
That is a presumption, yes.
Because what we know, based on your opinion, if it's fair to say, is that there was a fuel source, gasoline, in the living room, and it was exposed to an open flame, correct?
Correct.
Continuing to lead.
Clarify.
Yeah, there is a lot of leading, so if you can try to, I get you may need to do some for redirect, but.
Thank you. And that's kind of where I'm going. I have to lead a little bit to redirect, or else we're going to be here all day, Your Honor. So, we don't know what the source of the open flame necessarily was in the living room at the Stermer residence.
Exactly? No.
It could have come from the fireplace.
That's an option, yes.
Could have been someone threw a match on it,
That is a possibility.
or some other flame source.
Correct.
You were asked about Linda's clothing not testing positive for gasoline. Do you recall those?
Yes.
Is it possible to not get gasoline on your clothing when you're pouring gas?
Yes, it's possible.
It's also possible she could have changed clothes.
It's possible.
There are certain possibilities here that do exist that explain some of the evidence in this case. Is that a fair statement?
Leading again.
Clarifying, Your Honor.
Allow it for clarification.
Yes, it's possible.
You were asked about, and we're kind of cut off on this, so I'm going to kind of go on to this a little bit. Mr. Stermer's sweatpants. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
And about how they did not, may or may not have burned. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Are there certain factors that play into how clothing burns or whether clothing might burn?
Yes, there's when clothes.
It's responsive to cross-exam, I'll allow it.
So yes, when clothing, that all comes down to depending on how it's formed or how it's placed, if there's something on it. And I, I briefly mentioned something. Well, there could have been a blanket on his lap. That's kind of goes back to what I talked earlier in my testimony about putting leaves on top of a fire. It would like almost smother it. So if there's something over the sweatpants that may have prevented burning, or the fact, or how the sweatpants were placed. Are they stretched out? They hung on a line, or are they clumped up in a big wad? Those are all going to, that is all going to affect how or if they would burn.
Could be human intervention as well. For
Yes.
instance, if I'm on fire and I'm doing this with my hands and slapping the fire or brushing the fire out, that could put the fire out.
Potentially.
And you were also asked more questions about the statement of Ms. Stermer after Mr. Stermer exited the residence. Do you recall those?
Yes, that's, yes, go ahead.
Do you recall the testimony that, or the statement of Ms. Stermer where she described Todd as being on fire?
Yes.
So based on that statement, we would know Todd is on fire, but his pants did not burn. Fair?
Objection. Form of question and foundation.
Yeah, but if you could rephrase it, it calls for speculation.
Fair. Mr. Stermer was on fire based on that statement, correct?
Correct.
And we have evidence that he was burned. Was that fair?
Yes.
And there is some testimony or questioning about whether or not his sweatpants would have burned away. Do you recall that?
Yes.
What we do know, I guess from what I'm trying to get at here, is while he was on fire, his sweatpants did not burn. Fair?
Objection. Form of the question again.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you're going with it, but maybe more open-ended questions.
I'm having a hard time asking open-ended questions about this, Your Honor. I'm sorry. Without going thunder into an area. What I'm trying, I guess, to get at here is, well, you know what? I'll leave it where it is. I think I've covered it enough. NFPA 921 is a reference guide, correct?
Correct.
Are you expected to memorize NFPA 921?
No.
As being described as a reference guide, is that something you would reference if you need guidance or advice?
Yes.
When you're determining what data you collect that may or may not be relevant, are you relying on your training and experience?
Yes.
So based on your training and experience, you would know that some items contained at a fire scene have nothing to do with anything. Is that fair?
Yes, that's a decision that's made through training and experience.
It's clarifying, Your Honor, and I'm just trying to get to the point of this redirect.
I'll allow it. I think it's just to get through this in a more efficient manner, so.
Thank you, Your Honor. You were shown a large poster board by Mr. Mueller about NFPA 921. Do you recall that?
Well, a couple of them.
Couple
yes.
of them.
Yes.
Fair. One of which was talking about an incendiary fire, I believe. Is that, am I correct on that, or am I mistaken?
I don't recall that, but
Okay.
I might be wrong.
Well, I recall in your testimony you were trying to talk about an inference that you're allowed to make when it comes to an intentionally set fire. Do you recall that?
I don't think it was an intentionally set fire. It was any fire.
Any fire. Can you explain that to the jury, because Mr. Mueller cut you off before you could explain it?
You didn't need the comment.
Well, that's what happened. Fair enough.
Both of you are providing improper comment. I don't think the jury appreciates it, and I don't.
I apologize, Your Honor. So again, were you were attempting to explain an inference that you're allowed to draw when it comes to fires, some fires, is that correct?
Correct.
Can you explain to the jury what that is, please?
That was the discussion of your ignition source and the first fuel ignited, and then the third is the circumstance that brings them together. And this is not, that's for all fires, not just an intentionally set fire. In that same section, or in 921, it states that logical inferences can occur to bringing those two together. And one of the inferences specifically states where there's a flammable liquid present and you may not be able, you're likely or may not be able to find the actual ignition source.
Does it provide any other guidance other than that? Or is that the extent of it?
It guides to make sure you don't make that inference without proper evidence to say that there was a flammable liquid there. It cautions you not to make other inferences about bringing those two together.
So for instance, the inference that you are allowed to draw, if I'm clear on this, is that if there is an ignitable liquid in a room and an open source of flame, a logical inference can be drawn that the open flame set the ignitable liquid on fire, or they're vapor.
Your question mark on that.
I'll allow it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, it would allow, because of the flammable liquids in the room, it allows an inference that it came in contact with an open flame.
You were asked several questions by Mr. Mueller about your previous testimony in this case. Do you recall those?
Yes.
And you had a chance to look at that testimony.
On the stand, yes.
Okay. And at any point in time during that testimony, in the 2009 testimony, for instance, in that time frame, were you ever asked by anyone about first fuel ignited or anything along those lines, if you recall?
I don't recall being asked those specific questions.
You were asked about your report and there being, or excuse me, your testimony and there being two able-bodied persons at the Stermer residence. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you said that was a circumstance, I believe.
Yes.
Can you explain kind of more to the jury about what you mean by that?
And it's true, there's nothing in any of the reference material about able-bodied people. That is more of a common sense. common sense observation about able-bodied people being able to self-rescue.
Not a human factor, like he's testifying what typical people would do. You wouldn't let me get into what Linda Stermer might react, how she might react.
Allow it based on his expertise, if he can.
He's testifying based on his own common sense, is what he even indicated, Your Honor.
Yeah.
So, I guess you're explaining, it was kind of a common sense thing. Can you kind of expound on that?
Well, I kind of explained to it. There's no, is there any scientific background? No. Or that I know of. Let me rephrase that. But it's, if I've seen in past fire investigations that there's somebody in the house who is able and discover a fire, they typically take some sort of action. Escape, call for help, go and try to save pets or something like that. There's usually some sort of action.
And when we're talking about maybe a slower building fire versus a faster fire, a slower fire such as electrical or something like that, would that be something that you would maybe expect somebody to notice?
It does call for speculation.
Have you investigated electrical fires before?
Yes.
And have you had the opportunity, have you had the opportunity to observe the damage and what they look like?
Yes.
And so, I guess to kind of get to the point, when you rendered your opinion that this was not an electrical fire, were you basing that based on your experience?
Yes.
This kind of seems like a silly question, but you talked about the oil lamps that were at the Stermer residence. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do those generally contain gasoline?
I'm sorry.
I asked if they generally contain gasoline.
Oil
lamps.
objection, also speculate. No foundation there.
Overruled.
I wouldn't expect to find those because if you put gasoline in an oil lamp and light the wick, the fire is going to be bad. It's going to be very big and very quick. More than a person would expect from igniting a lamp with lamp oil in it.
Very good. Kind of goes without saying, but does gasoline emit an odor?
I can smell gasoline.
And does gasoline, is it a, to your knowledge, a fairly unique odor?
Liquid petroleum products have a unique odor.
You were asked about the boat hypothesis by Mr. Mueller. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
How was this boat described to you?
It was initially described to me as a toy boat.
Made of what material?
I wasn't told initially.
But a toy boat.
A toy boat.
Now, as part of your training and experience, are you allowed to, for lack of a better word, exclude hypotheses that just simply don't make sense?
Yes.
And in your training and experience, did that make sense to you that there would be gasoline in a toy boat?
It did not.
We'll try not to plow over too much old ground, sir, but you keep calling this a guide and a reference manual. This is the guide used by all fire investigators around the world, isn't it?
I can't speak to all fire investigators around the world.
How
But
about
in the,
every-
in the United States, that is the main guide for fire investigation.
Now, you were asked a lot of questions about possibilities. What's possible about this? Remember that?
Yes.
You are a forensic expert, are you not?
I've never been called a forensic
All
expert.
right, you're a fire core cause and origin expert, are you not?
Yes.
You rely on the scientific method and scientific principles, correct?
I rely on data, sometimes scientific, sometimes other.
You don't deal in the world of possibilities, do you? Anything's possible, right?
Well, the possibilities are part of drawing a hypothesis.
And when you come to an opinion, it's based on probabilities and on evidence you find. Is that not right?
And then the hypotheses are checked by analyzing the data with it.
Right. So, you were talking about electrical fires you've investigated, despite the fact that you've admitted you're not an expert in electrical, correct?
There's a big difference between an expert and knowing something about electrical fires.
Yes. So you're an expert witness. You understand that all fires are unique.
Some of them have similarities, but there's a great vast of different fires.
So you can't paint it with a broad brush. I've seen some electrical fires, so they exhibit all these same characteristics, fair?
I never said that.
And you wouldn't say that,
I would not say that.
because that would be intellectually dishonest, wouldn't it?
I would not say that.
Well, it wouldn't be intellectually dishonest.
I think he was just responding to your past question that you were rephrasing. So,
You talk about the smell of gasoline,
Yes?
right? And you said, I can smell liquid petroleum products. There are several of those, right?
Correct.
Right. You can't distinguish that's gasoline versus some other kind of product that might be close, fair?
I would never smell liquid petroleum. I would identify it, but I would never try to make a determination of what it is without a laboratory exam.
Fair enough, because your nose is just like every other nose. You can kind of smell it. Smells like it, but I don't know.
Correct.
And you wouldn't go out on a limb, would you?
On smell alone?
Yes.
No.
All right. You were asked questions about testimony you gave in 2009 and 2010 under oath. You remember that?
Yes?
And you were asked, well, you weren't at...
I'm sorry. No, I'm fine. I got something over here.
You were asked questions about, you didn't get asked about ignition source and first fuels. Remember that question?
Yes.
It is incumbent upon you as the expert who's going to testify to the cause of a fire to tell the folks who are listening what the ignition source is, correct?
Yes.
And the first fuel, correct?
But those buzzwords may not have been used. But yes. I would tell them that what the ignition source and the first fuel.
Trial is not a cat and mouse game, is it?
It is not.
All right, so it's not about you don't ask, I don't tell. Fair?
I typically answer the questions that are asked. I try not to just start talking.
But you didn't volunteer in any of those hearings as we talked about ignition source or first fuel, fair?
I can't remember.
I'm following up on his redirect. And in terms of slower or faster fire, you were asked some questions about that, remember?
Yes?
Slower and faster, those are relative terms, right?
They are.
All right. You don't use those, you're not supposed to use those, correct?
It is very subjective.
It's cautioned against by
Yes.
921
Correct.
to say anything's abnormally fast.
It is cautioned.
Right. Because there, as we explained, there are so many factors that go into the speed of a fire.
920 says you can discuss it, but you should be cautioned to making that your sole piece of data, making a decision.
Let's talk about this idea of inferring something without evidence. It's called negative corpus, is it not?
No. No. In negative, that is not the definition I've heard of negative corpus. I know what negative corpus is.
Negative corpus is supplying an ignition source and a first fuel where you don't have affirmative evidence of it. Negative corpus without the body, right?
Negative corpus means without the body.
Right. So you're supplying an ignition source and a first fuel without affirmative evidence of it, correct?
Well, the affirmative evidence is the fire itself.
All right. Let me direct you to, if I can, the appropriate use of negative corpus. Identifying the ignition source for a fire by believing to have eliminated all ignition sources found, known, or suspected to have been present in the area of origin, and for which no supporting evidence exists, is referred to as negative corpus. You agree with that?
That is correct.
Okay. Determination of the ignition source must be based on data or logical inferences drawn from that data, correct?
Correct. Logical inferences.
And in fact, section 4.3.6.1 tells us any hypothesis that is incapable of being tested either physically or analytically is an invalid hypothesis, correct?
That is correct.
Goes on to say, a hypothesis based on the absence of data is an example of a hypothesis that is incapable of being tested, which means that's an invalid hypothesis, correct?
Correct.
And you suggest inferences that you can make based on an absence of data. The authorities that you look to say only when it's clearly defined, correct?
The logical inferences were made from data.
And it can only be used in those limited circumstances where the area of origin is clearly defined.
Correct.
Now, you previously told us that John Lentini and his scientific protocols is an authority that is referenced, correct?
Yeah, I guess I think we're getting crossed beyond the scope of reader right here.
No, he talked about the negative corpuses and inferences.
I'll allow it, it can go beyond the scope, but it's getting cumulative.
True? Clearly defined.
What question?
You can only use negative corpus, this absence of evidence, under limited circumstances where the area of origin is clearly defined, correct?
Correct.
And John Lentini tells us on page 128, clearly defined means that anyone, even somebody completely untrained in the investigation of fires, could look at the damage and unhesitatingly, without fear of contradiction,
I guess I'm going to object. I think this is
point at this is the authority, this is the learned treatise.
This is a record book, Your Honor.
Your Honor,
I mean, how much of this are you gonna?
just one
do
more
this
sentence.
One quote? Okay, after this quote, we're done. And I'm not gonna have you read the whole book to the jury.
It's 2 sentences, Your Honor.
That's why I'm asking how many sentences. We'll see if it's 2.
Without fear of contradiction, point at the location and state that's where the fire started. That would be clearly defined, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, it took you with all your training to define the area of origin in this case as a living room that's 20 by 20.
That's correct.
And you can't tell this jury anywhere in this area of origin where that fire started, fair?
The area of origin is clearly defined as the first floor living room.
So according to the authorities that I just read, somebody, like any of us, ought to be able to find exactly, looking at that evidence, all that damage, and find out exactly that the living room was the area of origin.
Object with the argument, Your Honor. I think if questions are proper as well.
It goes right to the impeachment.
I'm gonna sustain the objection.
In this case, we have a potential crime scene, you testified, right?
Yes.
And we have a 7-foot pile of debris that you claim you excavated that's missing.
I didn't say it was missing. There's a pile of debris outside.
That 7-foot high pile you didn't see, did you?
I did not see a 7-foot pile in the photographs.
And you didn't record it.
I did not photograph it. Is that what you mean, recording?
Photograph it.
Correct.
In fact, so when you told us you looked for photographs of the excavation, you just couldn't find them. Remember you told us that yesterday?
Yes.
That's technically true. You looked and you couldn't find them, correct?
Yes.
Because you didn't take them, correct?
That's probably what happened.
So technically, what you told us was true, a half-truth. I looked and I couldn't find them. What you didn't tell us was that it's because you didn't take any pictures. Fair?
I don't have a specific recollection of taking that photograph. The photograph of the post-excavation.
or during excavation?
I do not have a direct recollection of photographs during the excavation.
Famous last words, but last question. There was no gasoline found other than Todd Stermer sweatpants in the area of origin, is that correct?
I was unable to locate any gasoline in the living room due to the heavy destruction of the living room.
So you can't rule out the logical possibility that there was no gasoline in the living room other than Todd Stermer sweatpants, fair?
Todd Stermer sweatpants were in the living room, correct.
That wasn't the question. Other than Todd Stermer's sweatpants, you can't rule out the logical possibility that there was no gasoline in the area of origin.
I cannot.
I know I said last question. I know I said it, Your Honor, but I just have one further area. All right. Like I said, famous last words. Thank you.
Mr. Blair, any follow-up?
Did you employ a negative corpus analysis, or however it's described in this case?
No.
Can you describe for the jury what that means, since we didn't really get into what it means?
Negative corpus used to be used a lot in fire investigation improperly when a fire investigator would go to a house, didn't have any evidence or data of what started the fire and jumped to the conclusion, well, if I didn't find it, it must be this. It must be an incendiary fire. It must be accidental. That is improper. Now, it's typically the process of elimination is used by examining the data.
Thank you. And based on the evidence you collected, do we know whether or not Todd Stermer was in the area of origin?
We do.
And do we know whether or not his sweatpants were in the area of origin?
We do.
And those would be the sweatpants that, again, tested positive for gasoline.
Correct.
And we also, do we know if there was an open flame in the living room?
All the data suggests there is.
And what was that?
The remnants of a log in the fireplace and statements from Linda Stermer and, I believe, other witnesses.
And still ask a couple questions, Your Honor. This case has been going on since 2007, correct?
Correct.
Would that be almost 18 years?
Yes.
In that time, have you reviewed all of the evidence that may have been collected in this case?
I do not know if I've reviewed all of the evidence collected. I have reviewed a lot of the evidence.
Has there been any evidence brought to your attention that calls into question your opinion that this was an intentionally set fire?
No.
If it had, would you hesitate to change your opinion?
I would not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Miller?
Todd Stermer was certainly in the area of origin at the instant the fire started, do you believe?
Yes.
Linda Stermer was not in the area of origin at the instant of the fire starting, correct?
There's no evidence that she is.
And you found, based on your testimony, you found her to be credible, correct?
Objection, that's calling me to...
It's not, the jury decides credibility, not the witnesses.
Your Honor, if I may, we determined it is reliable. I'll say reliable.
I'm sustaining the objection.
You found her statement to be reliable because you depended on it.
I've sustained the objection. Move on.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions for you.
Are you done?
We are done. Your Honor. Thank you.
Jury, your turn. Any questions of this witness? Okay, they're coming in. Jury, one of you wins the best handwriting of the trial award with your questions. Yeah. So you get free water. And I have no objection from counsel, sir. Some questions from the jury. Were any fingerprints taken on the gas can left in the front yard collected at 1:40 January 8?
I did not collect any fingerprints. I just collected the can.
Any evidence of a phone landline wiring during the excavation?
I did not locate any, but I also wasn't specifically looking for telephone communications during the excavation.
Do you know what happened to the, quote, container that Todd Stermer was transferred in from near the house to away from the house? Did you ever see it?
What's referred to has been referred to as the toy boat. I have never seen it.
For this specific investigation, did you already determine origin and cause before excavating the site?
No.
Do you believe investigating a fire is best to do right away or days later?
That depends on the case, of course. In this case, I am a strong advocate of not investigating a scene at night, especially right after the active fire. Because active fire, even if the fire's out, the scene is still steaming. There's a lot of steam coming off, so fogs up camera lenses and you can't see as well. And it's just, I always prefer to do investigation in the daylight. I've done them days after, but it's always better the sooner to the event, and the sooner to the event possible is always better.
Is there ever a scenario in an investigation for you to return to the site?
Yes.
Was there any reason for you to return, in your professional opinion?
This question is going to call for 18 years of experience since the fire, and a lot of hindsight. So, and that's yes. In hindsight and more experience, I could have returned. It would have taken some more hoops to jump through to get there, but I could have.
When you arrived at the house and were told it could potentially be a crime scene, did you take into consideration while doing your investigation that Ms. Stermer's interview may not have been accurate?
I would have taken Linda Stermer's interview at just face value, not just take it at face value and not try to determine truthfulness or not truthfulness, because I wouldn't have enough information, so I would just take it at face value.
Okay, thank you. Counsel, any questions in light of the questions and answers?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Mueller?
Yes. You took Linda Stermer's statement at face value, correct?
Yes.
But her statement as to the origin of the fire also corroborated the physical evidence that you had found, correct?
Yes.
Which was the area of origin living room as opposed to the kitchen or dining room.
Correct.
So that was consistent, and physical evidence corroborated her statements, correct?
Correct.
And her statements corroborated your physical investigation.
Correct.
Now, certainly, you were aware of this boat that Todd Stermer had been transferred in,
Yes,
because it's in your report.
correct.
You just chose not to consider it, fair?
I did not look at it.
And you certainly could have requested that the gasoline can that was found in the front yard be tested for fingerprints. That's within your purview.
I could have, but I left that to the other detectives on the case.
And as to return to that question about returning to the scene, you certainly could have returned to the scene. Nothing prevented that.
Correct.
And are you telling us, based on now 18 more years of experience, you would have returned to take pictures of the excavation that you knew you had to take before?
No, I never said that. I would return to document more evidence.
Okay. You would have, I'm sorry.
I would have returned probably with Jim Shinsky.
You would have returned to document more evidence, but you knew in 2007, as a 6-year veteran, you need to document evidence.
Yes,
And a digital camera is simply just pushing a button.
correct.
You took 138 pictures, right?
Correct?
But again, as you said, you simply forgot. And any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. And you're still done?
Yes.
Mr. Blair? Jury, do you have any other questions of this witness? Okay, I've got a hand going up, I think one. Objection from counsel. Did you note any fuel in the cans in the shed?
I did not.
Thank you. Questions, any questions, lawyers, in light of that?
No.
None, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. Any more from the jury? Nope. Okay, thank you, sir. You're all done. And is he excused from his subpoena obligation? Excused? Agreed, counsel?
Yes.
To excuse him? Thank you, sir. You're all done. And Ms. Siderman?
Your Honor, Cynthia Deloach to the stand, please.